Hey guys, quick disclaimer. This is a podcast that me and my friend Andrew Cherry recorded about our feelings about the show RWBY after Volume 6's end. It's very long and pretty harsh, so if you're not into that kind of thing, understandably, I'd recommend skipping it. You've been warned. All right, so how do we start this?
I don't know. I'm actually it's slightly intimidating because
Yeah.
like just trying to sum up everything that happened in this season and not forget anything because this is the thing, like the last three seasons nothing has happened plot wise really.
That's the crazy thing is like so much happened this season, but also technically nothing happened.
Yeah, like just as little as the last two seasons before it, except there's so
Yeah.
much more to talk about.
They just dropped a bunch of shit on us.
Hmm.
They walked 10 feet and then just piles of shit fell on them.
Do we need to summarize Ruby or say what it is before we start? Might be worth doing.
I I guess yeah, we could give like a general brief overview of the concept if someone's like curious enough to hear about it but hasn't seen a rube.
Fuck, where do you even start with that? Like,
You want to do it or do you want me to do it?
well, I'm trying to think. Where to start? So there's like back in like early 2000s, there was a guy called Monty Ohm
Look,
who
this is 2013. Don't make it sound like it was like 500 years ago.
was that when he was, yeah, no, but when was he doing like Red versus Blue?
Oh, no,
Like,
yeah, that was around like 2012
oh,
or
okay. Oh.
something. Because he was still working on Red versus Blue when he started RWBY. And his big thing was Dead Fantasy,
Mm.
which was Final Fantasy characters versus Dead or Alive girls like hitting each other. And then so they hired him to do the fight scenes in Red versus Blue.
Mm.
And then he was like, I want to make my own anime.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll be the best. And they're like, all right, let's do it. You seem qualified to make a whole anime.
You're good at fight scenes, so let's let you make an anime, which could have worked if the show had just been about the fight scenes. That could have
Yeah.
worked because he was good at fight scenes. That was his thing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so if you've never seen anything about RWBY, which is pronounced Ruby,
Mm.
they had four trailers that came out. And again, this was back in 2013, and the trailers were mostly just fights. The first two were just fights, and then they got progressively more talky and more like, oh no, this is gonna be something.
That was the thing, wasn't it? Like the first two didn't have any dialogue; it was just a fight, and people were like, "Ah, this looks cool," and then they started talking.
Yeah, like I
And
know you're not as into the fights in general, but how do you feel about like the Red trailer?
it's yeah, I mean, look, it's not as much my thing, but I can appreciate like the aesthetic of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
The song's kind of cool.
it
Like,
had aesthetic.
yeah, it did. Yeah,
And the
it had
song
like
wasn't even butt rock, which is, what became such a thing later.
it's
It was
it's funny.
classy.
Yeah, but I could see how people could be pumped for it because it does look. This looks cool. Like,
Yeah.
especially like coming from like a US studio, this is kind of interesting. And it's all they're just like a little internet company, or they were at the time. So that's something that's sort of like cool to get behind. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then it just started to look stupider, and then the show started. So
Yeah.
the show itself is the idea is that it's sort of like a Harry Potter thing, but for fighting anime girls, essentially.
Yeah, it's like Soul Eater, but not Halloween,
Yeah,
if
it's
you've seen Soul Eater.
yeah, it's like it's a show about this world where there's human colonies, and there's all over the world there's these creatures called Grimm that attack humans when they're essentially like feeling bad or panicky. They're attracted to negative emotions. So
Yeah.
in response to that, humans set up this system for training people called hunters, who are capable of fighting the Grimm. And all the hunters have to go to one of four schools in one of the four different nations around the world. And the show follows a character called Ruby, who is
Theoretically.
yeah, theoretically follows a character called Ruby, who is a hunter in training. As she starts off at this school called Beacon, and she's part of a team which includes her sister, a rich, spoiled girl, and another girl who turns out to be
How are you gonna describe her? How are you gonna do it?
so yeah. So I'll give the names. There's Ruby. There's Yang, who's Ruby's half sister. There is Weiss, who is the rich, spoiled girl, who's the heiress to like a dust company. A dust is like it's magic in
Materia.
powder form. Yeah, yeah. God, there's so much stupid detail in the show. And there's Blake. Blake is
Yeah,
a
what's Blake?
Blake is what's called a faunus, which is meant to be like a separate race. Really, they're just humans that have like one animal thing on them. Like in Blake's case, she has cat ears.
Now, be careful. They are very careful to never use the word race when referring to faunus. They're
Yeah,
a different species.
sorry, different species, but it's absolutely a race analogy because like the faunus were persecuted and enslaved, and since then have risen up and won their freedom through terrorist actions. And despite being like 16, Blake is an ex-terrorist, or
Yeah.
was for quite a while. Oh fuck.
She's had a wild childhood.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but they don't in season one. You don't find out she's a faunus. Like the whole time she's wearing this bow, this big stupid
No,
bow.
in later season one you do. I'd say like halfway
Yeah,
through season one.
yeah,
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 she
yeah.
takes the bow off all dramatically, and it's like, oh, I am a minority.
I have cat
And it's
ears.
really, and she has the tiny purple cat ears in season one, and it's awesome.
Uh, it's yeah. It, so the thing about Ruby, right, is if it had just been a show about fighting, like cool fights with these anime girls that have crazy weapons and they jump around and stuff, that might have been okay.
Oh yeah,
And in the first couple of seasons, it sort of was that, where like the plot was very stupid and the world is dumb and doesn't really make sense, but it was just really a vehicle to get from fight scene to fight scene. But in between seasons 2 and 3, unfortunately, Monty Oum died suddenly. And
yeah.
the show was taken over by two of the other guys who had been working on it, a guy called Miles Luna and Kerry, what's his name?
Shawcross.
Kerry Shawcross.
And all three of them were always writers on it, but
Yeah.
you kind of had the impression that, like, because all the stuff that wasn't fighting was always badly written.
Yes, yeah, terribly.
And you kind of got the impression that Monty was just like, I'll be working on the fights, and you guys write the shit that comes between them. And it was all, like, bad racism metaphors, and John, who I'm sure we'll talk about more.
Yeah, yeah. And it's sort of now that the guy who was good at the fights, which was the only good thing about the show, was gone. The show started to really deteriorate from that point. Yet somehow is
Yeah.
in its sixth season, which is what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, but Volume 3, they still had a couple good fight guys, but then they left and there was that whole thing. So then there was no one left to really lead the fights.
Oh yeah, that's part of the thing. Is that Rooster Teeth, the company that makes RWBY, it seems like they have a high turnover rate. I guess you can say.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a great place to work.
Yeah,
So
most
people
of
come
the
and-
Glassdoor things complain about their HR department and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So they seem to have trouble holding on to people, and so as the show has gone on, there's been fewer and fewer fight scenes, and the story has gotten more and more out of control in terms of just branching off into
Everything.
nonsense and forgetting what they were doing, and like it's very hard to summarize RWBY because like I do this podcast where we look at bad pilots, right? And RWBY is like a show that was like a terrible pilot, but they just kept going with the same people,
Yeah.
and it just spun further and further out of hand, like a fractal. Like,
So I was thinking, like, you described it as, like, oh, it's about her going to Beacon, but that ends in Volume 3, because the school gets destroyed.
yeah,
And so now it's about them questing the world for MacGuffins and magical people and
well,
stuff.
it's sort of about them trying to kill God at this point. Like,
No, because the gods are not the bad guys.
well, yeah, but there's a person who's a bit like a god who they're trying to
That's
kill.
true. There's an immortal evil lady,
Yeah.
so-called evil, supposedly.
Yeah, we've got to get to that.
But, oh God, I can't wait to talk
Yeah.
about episode 3.
So, to just rush through the plot really quick. Basically, while they were at the school, there's this other evil group that are trying to destroy Beacon for some
Everything,
reason.
presumably.
Everything. They're trying to destroy everything. It's not really explained why.
Yeah,
to
but
this
they're
day.
cool for now.
Yeah. And anyway, so the school gets infiltrated. There's a big attack. The school crumbles. Everyone has to run. And in the middle of season 3, there was also some other stuff explained about how there's also like 4 magical women, and then you get explained that there's these things called relics that have like special powers that the magic women are connected to. And so seasons 4 and 5 are kind of about that, sort of. But like season 4 is This is the thing. Their plan is for the show to go 12 seasons, right? So season 4
Yeah.
was about the team splits up for a bit, and one of the members of the team spends the entire season walking from one location to the other. And
And
then
the other three members spend their time sitting at home.
yeah, they sit at home until they eventually
Literally.
they literally sit at home having issues of various sorts, which are very poorly handled.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Weiss just stays at home. Yang had PTSD because her arm got cut off. You discover Blake is also like a Faunus princess, just to add even more confusing elements to her character.
Yes.
And yeah, and then so like yeah, Ruby spends season 4 walking from one location to the other. Season 5 is spent in that location. Nothing really happens. And now season 6 is a transitional
Walking
season.
to a new location.
Yeah, it was walking to another location. And this was the maddening thing, right? So at the end of season 4, after you've watched this one character walk from one nation to the other, at the very end of the season, you see a person heading to the same place, but he's on a train. Which I fucking killed myself laughing at that at the end of it, because like we spent this whole season watching this idiot's fucking walk for no reason, and here's a dude on a train. So at the start of season 6, everyone's on a train.
Hey.
And I was like, hey, they've learned something.
They're not going to be walking anywhere.
Yeah, guess what?
Fucking fool.
Yeah.
You dummy.
Yeah, the train gets attacked, and they have to...
They got to start walking right away.
They got to walk. Yeah, they got to walk some more. So where they were at the start of season 6 was that the team's all back together. They have one of 4 relics. Now they don't really know what the relics are about so much at this point, other than that they were.
They know they have the relic of knowledge, and that is it's very cool and powerful.
Yeah, it's one.
That's
it's
all they know.
It's one of 4 relics. There's an episode somewhere in season 4 where a character explains the backstory of the world in terms of how humans were created and the gods, and like the relics, according to this story, was something like the tools that were used to make humans and the world, and the gods just kind of left them behind. And at some point,
it was like we gave you like the same power that we have, or something.
Yeah,
it was just like the gods wanted to give you Dragon Balls, so he was 4 of them.
Yeah. There's a god of creation and a god of destruction who are brothers. So
Yeah.
there's a relic of creation and there's a relic of destruction.
Yeah,
And then-
yeah, that's funny that like 2 of the relics directly correspond to them, but then there's also the knowledge one and the choice one.
The knowledge, yeah, there's a relic of knowledge and the relic of choice, which is the 2 gifts that were given to humans. And then someone took the relics and hid them underneath all of the hunter training schools. Supposedly, that's supposedly where they are.
It was Ozpine!
It was Osmond. Yeah, it was a guy called Osmond who used to run the school and then died. And then in seasons 4, he turned up inside the testicles of a young boy.
Look, we can't start memeing on people. We can't.
No,
We
sorry,
gotta be straight.
Okay, no, he's not literally in the testicles. Basically, this guy Osmond.
He was like the Dumbledore. He was like the headmaster, mysterious man.
Yeah, he was the shitty knockoff Dumbledore of Beacon. He died. He was killed. And then he suddenly appeared inside the mind of like a 12-year-old farm boy. And he's just kind of
14.
there.
But
14?
yeah,
Oh,
he's a good young boy. He's the only likable nice boy.
Yeah.
And he has to have his mind taken over by this old man who will never leave.
Yeah, he's just constantly there yammering in his head about how you need to leave your home and everyone you know right now to go to a place you've never been to warn someone about the bad guys that are coming to get the relic at the other school, which he does.
You have to become anime.
So
And he says, I can't handle there are thoughts now.
that's right, yeah.
It's so fucked up.
But there's 2 people talking, so they're not our thoughts. We have distinctly separate, like we've got 2 voices.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he has to do that. Yeah, so getting back to the relics. So Ozpin, it turns out, is immortal. He just keeps reincarnating inside other people's bodies. And
because it was a curse, as of what he told us in Volume 5. The gods cursed him for failing to stop Salem, the big evil lady, with eternal life.
That's right, yes, that's what they said. Okay, so this is one of the things you need to remember about RWBY, is that since Season 4, they've become obsessed with their own lore. They've become obsessed with the world building. And the issue is that season to season, and occasionally episode to episode, and very occasionally within the one episode, they can't actually remember the lore they said, and they tell you something
Yeah,
different. They
it's
continually
like when you
revise.
have a new idea, but you forgot that you already put the old idea in the show.
Yeah, and so they don't have a consistent idea of what the fuck's happening in their own show. So the show will just continually contradict itself in a way that no one notices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Ozpin specifically, there is a World of Remnant episode, which is like their side information things they do, where it specifically says, and if you master your aura, you can become more than a man, and it shows Ozpin. But then it's like, no, the gods cursed me for failing to stop Salem, and that's why I'm immortal. And then in this season, we learn a third reason that's why he's immortal.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, aura. Everyone has aura. It's like a magic
Oh, yeah.
thing. The reason that people can hit each other with swords and shit all the time is that they have essentially is it like a sort of magic telepathic armor on themselves? Kind of?
Yeah, I always think about it like when you cast like a shell or whatever in Final Fantasy. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's your MP for using magics, but not magic. It's not magic. It's like a superpower. It's different from magic, which is a different thing. And but it's also like if someone hits you, then it doesn't actually hurt you. It like takes down your HP MP barrier until
Yeah,
you
but-
run out of it, and then you
Yeah.
can get actually hurt.
Yeah, if your aura goes down, you can actually be killed. When you get stabbed, you will get stabbed and die.
Yeah, and there's like a halo shield, like brown
Yeah.
effect.
I sort of
You
I
know, if
forgot
your
about
aura goes brown.
I forgot about the magic thing. Yeah, because like this is the other thing. There's so much magic bullshit in the show, but there's a point earlier on when someone refers to something as magic and everyone's mind is blown, and they go, "Oh,
Yeah.
magic is real." And
Weiss's power, because everyone has a unique power. Weiss's power is that she can channel dust, the material stuff, into elemental abilities that she shoots with her sword, not a wand, and it's not magic. She can shoot ice and cast haste, but not like in a magic way. It's like
no,
not
it's not
magic though.
It's not magic. It's not magic.
Yeah.
Magic is strictly when people turn into birds. Anyway,
Yes.
so explain. Sorry, this is a very long explanation because there's a lot of backstory to cover to get you to the start of season 6.
Ruby's fucking nuts.
Ruby is nuts.
It's important though.
Yeah, it is. So, there's 4 relics that were hidden. The reason that Beacon was attacked by the bad guys, led by this person called Cinder, was that they wanted the relic at Beacon. But as to this point, as far as we know, they never found it. It's not there or something.
Yeah, and the problem is that relics didn't exist until Volume 4, and were never hinted at before Volume 4, but
No.
Beacon was destroyed in Volume 3. So basically they had to make up an excuse for why they destroyed Beacon but didn't go for the relic, which totally existed back then and wasn't added just in Volume 4. So it's like, oh, he hid extra good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they totally probably tried to find it off screen, but they couldn't because he hid it super good.
Yeah, yeah. The bad guys don't even talk at any point about how come we haven't found the relic at Beacon yet? Like, where the fuck is
Not
it?
until Volume 4,
Yeah.
when they're like, oh yeah, remember the most important thing that we were totally worried about? Where is it?
So, in the end of Volume 5, the team RWBY. So, okay. So, all of the when people were training at Beacon, they were given team names that all had to correspond with the color. And so RWBY was put in charge of her team, and her name is
It's called Team
which is called
RWBY.
Team RWBY because her name is RUBY, Ruby, but the team name is made up of the initials.
RWBY.
Yeah, the initials of all the team members. So it's RWBY, which is the name of the show. RWBY.
Yeah, but you're legally required to pronounce it Ruby.
RWBY. Yeah, it's RWBY. Everyone just pronounces it RWBY. So they managed to get their hands on the relic of knowledge. And
Yeah.
they decided that what they should do with this relic in order to stop Cinder and Salem and the other bad guys from getting it is to take it to the best defended place, which currently is a place called Atlas, which is, again, is one of these things that doesn't make sense in this fucking show. Every other nation has, like, their transport is like basic trains and airships. Meanwhile,
Like magical airships.
magical airships and like it's really it's not like medieval, but it's like very it seems like basic technology. Meanwhile, just over there's a nation that has like fucking spaceships and lasers.
Yeah,
and
Atlas is sci-fi fascist land.
yeah, yeah. It's weirdly way more advanced than everyone else. And when Beacon fell, they went insular and closed their borders and said, "Fuck off, no one come here anymore."
Yeah, which it's been about 2 years since then.
Yeah,
Volumes 4 and 5, where they're walking, take over a year of them walking and sitting at home. So now they're like, we need to get this relic to fascist land to protect it because they had the relics. They had the one in Beacon and it got fucked up, and then they went to Haven and that relic place got all fucked up and attacked. And so they're like, we need to take it to the third place. This one will definitely be super safe.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely not going to be attacked by the same people who have never had any issue getting into wherever they wanted to get into. But let's go there.
Yeah, but this one's the best one though, definitely.
There's also a fourth place called Vacuo, which we don't know anything about yet.
Yeah, that's for seasons 10 or something, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
9
season
and-
7 is going to be walking to Season 7 is going to be in Atlas. Season 8 is going to be walking to Vacuo.
Yeah,
Season 9 will be
season
in
9
Vacuo.
in Vacuo. I guess season 10 probably walking to Salem.
Oh, well, no, I think season 10 will be walking back to Beacon.
Oh yeah.
And then season 11 will be in Beacon getting whatever relic that was. And then season 12, the final season, is walk to Salem and killed her in the last episode, I imagine. So yeah.
Justice for Salem.
So
Salem did nothing wrong. Hashtag.
finally, the start of season 6 is they're on the train. They're on a train trying to get to Atlas, but they get attacked by Grimm, which again are the
See, but this is the problem. You keep talking about it like Team RWBY, like we're following 4 characters around.
Yes, good point.
You've made a grave mistake.
I have made a grave mistake.
Okay, so the party currently is RWBY, it's Team RWBY.
Yes.
Then you have Junior, which is Jay, NNR, John, Nora, and Ren, who are 3 other losers from a different team who had a 4th member that died so that John could cry about it. And John is the worst character and a criminal. And then you've also got Oscar, who has Ozpin inside his balls and can never be alone and is a poor boy and is a good boy and deserves better.
Yes.
And then you have Crow, which is, it's Crow, but it's spelled with a Q at the start because anime.
Yeah.
Voiced by Vic Mignogna. Oh no.
Yeah, he's been sacked, which
Topical.
credit to Rooster Teeth. They were the first to openly sack him for being an awful person. So that's
Were
good.
they? I thought Funimation did it first.
No. Rooster Teeth did it first.
Oh, well, good on them then.
Yeah. That was actually like it's worthy of some praise. They were the ones to bite the bullet and do that first.
But he was definitely one of the more competent voice actors, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see
Crow,
what they do about Crow.
Crow used to be one of the better characters as well.
Yeah, because Crow is like Ruby's cool mentor uncle guy who also has a scythe. And and he like ended up kind of being their de facto leader because he's like the one adult. So he was like, we're going to go and I'll handle you guys, I guess.
Yeah, but they...
So the team is Oscar, RWBY, Crow, JNR. So that's 9 people.
Yeah.
And then they get a 10th person on the train.
The thing about RWBY is that whenever they decide they want to introduce something new, they can't ever bring themselves to just work it into the backstory of an already existing character. They have to bring in someone else. They have to just add someone else to the fucking party. And you just end up you end up with this situation where there's so many characters here just doing nothing. Who just have nothing to do in terms of an arc or a purpose in this season. They're just hangers on. And it's particularly bad with Crow because Crow, like, where are everyone else in this overlarge team now are students or were students. Crow was like an older hunter who should be hyper competent. So they have to keep coming up with reasons why he isn't just doing a much better job than they were before.
You say they have to keep coming up with reasons, but they don't really come up with reasons. It's just, he just conveniently doesn't kick as much ass as you think he should when
okay, yeah, so I guess that's what I mean, is they just don't. He just doesn't. He just illogically is not better than everyone else at what he's supposed to be good at.
Thought he was a cool guy, cool drunk guy. Nah, he sucks.
Nah, he sucks, yeah. He's an alcoholic and he sucks. So anyway, yeah, while they're on this train, the train gets attacked by Grimm, and Ozpin has to admit that the relics attract Grimm.
Yeah, he says it's slight, but the relics do attract Grimm, kind of like upset people do.
Yeah, yeah, ignoring for the minute that the rules in terms of Grimm are completely inconsistent, and Miles and that just sort of forget to use Grimm all the time as part of their setting.
Yeah.
Like, there's all sorts of occasions when Grimm should be really scary. Like anytime you go out of a city, Grimm should be an ever-present threat. And there's whole seasons where they just sort of forget they're there.
Yeah, and like your entire season, I mean, your entire society should be built up around the fact that, like, if you get too sad, monsters show up.
Yeah, and try to kill
Like
you.
that's a big fucking thing.
Yeah,
But it
and
was
and
never
so,
really a problem.
and something sort of vaguely unique to this show. Like this should be part of its selling point. This should be part of like I don't know. It's just, oh god, it's annoying.
No, yeah, it could be really interesting. Like, it
Hmm.
could lead to a lot of weird philosophical, it almost becomes like a psychopath scenario where
Yeah.
it's like people who are too depressed end up getting shunned because you're gonna get everyone killed.
Yeah, exactly. Like it could be that it could be really interesting, but they don't do anything with it. Well, they
Yeah, it's
rarely.
more that just like if enough people are upset all together, then Grimm will probably show up and be like, "Hey, we heard there was sad people."
But in the meantime,
party.
Grimm tend to show up anyway. But yeah, in this case, they show up. There's a fight in the train. The fight's okay.
It's better than anything in season 5. I'll say that.
Yeah,
It's
there
not
was.
like the worst.
So this was the thing. In season 4, nothing happened except for one shitty fight at the end. Oh,
There was a semi-decent fight with Quirrell.
and Tyrion. Yeah,
It wasn't very good though.
yeah. Tyrion's a scorpion faunus, who's awful. He's an awful like.
Yeah,
he's
like,
crazy.
I'm crazy and maybe horny, probably
Yeah, so he just laughs
make
all
you
the time.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's awful. So yeah, there were 2 fights in season 4. Remember, season 4 is like 13 episodes long, and there's 2 fights.
Wait, there's also the Gollum fight at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, but that also sucks.
I
Okay,
love
3
when
fights.
people hit things and it's not on screen.
Yeah, well, this was season 5's thing. Was we're not going to have any fights until the very end, and every time we should see someone fighting, we're going to cut away to someone else talking.
It really is like just watching it all together was so crazy. It's like, are you okay? No, I'm mad. Cut away.
That's Ruby's voice, by the way. That's how Ruby talks.
Yeah, that's how I talk. I'm Ruby.
Yeah,
Everyone assures me it's very accurate.
she's meant to be cute and shit. Like that. Well, again, this is because it's like an anime ripoff. She's the sort of moe kind of cute girl, but
Yeah,
they
she
forget
was
that.
the Genki girl, but because everything's so serious now, she's not really allowed to be that character much, but she still has to talk like this. So she'll be like, I'm really mad about all the people that just died. And it's pretty good. Because on the train, in the train fight, there's like 2 hunters that they present as, oh, these are the loser hunters. They fucking suck. And one of them gets carried off by a Grimm. And they're like, what's the plan now, Ruby? And she's like, don't let anyone else die. And it's like, how do you know he's dead? You're just gonna you could have done so many things about that. I guess you're fine with him being dead. Okay.
Oh, he did suck. Like all
That's
adult
what you get
hunters.
for questioning us.
Like all adult hunters, he sucked. Like
He
yeah.
sucked, but he didn't. He deserves to die. Suck.
No, absolutely not. But he did. So
Yeah.
he did die. So we assume we didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in order to protect the people on the train, Team JNR like get fucked off for a little bit, which is kind of
Oh,
a
it was
positive
such a
thing.
relief.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
actually they put Team JNR on the train with all the other people who were just like the civilians who were just traveling on the train, and cut some of the carriages off. And Team RWBY and Oscar and Crow stay behind to fight the Grimm. The train crashes, and now they're stuck in the wilderness. And I guess we're going to be walking
We
the
gotta
rest
walk,
of the.
but at least JNR isn't here.
Yeah.
And now there's an old lady.
Oh yeah, there's an old lady. There was an old lady on on their half of the train who's here, and she's sassy. She's a sassy
Yeah,
old
she's
lady.
she's a sassy old lady, and her name is Maria Calavera. And she says it like that. She's voiced by a white lady, but she's very Hispanic, I assure you.
What's weird is the Hispanic accent only really comes in when she says a name.
Yeah, and then she just talks in an old lady voice.
Yeah. The the VA was asked about, is it okay? Do you think it's all right that this could have been a role for a Hispanic voice actor, but it's gone to another white person? And the VA on Twitter said something along the lines of, "It's okay. I grew up around a lot of Hispanic people, so it's part of my culture."
So yeah, she's like, I grew up in San Antonio, and I'm really excited because I felt like I didn't appreciate the culture when I was a kid or something. And it's like that's not what the question was about.
No.
It's not about if you've ever met a Hispanic person as a young person.
Jesus.
Come on.
Rooster teeth. Anyway, so now they've got to walk. Now the other thing that happens at the start of season 1, and this is relevant for the very end of the season, and I've got to go back and explain a little bit more stuff before we get so this makes sense. There's a group called the White Fang who were a faunist terrorist group. And
I just
Blake,
love like starting a thought with having to explain the White Fang. So there's a group called the White Fang.
this nonsensical fucking faunist terrorist organization that is, it's either like thousands of men strong or it's 6 dudes depending on which episode it is.
Yeah.
Blake was in it. There's a guy called Adam who was set up like he was the leader, and then it turned out he wasn't the leader. But in the scene where you found out he wasn't the leader, he kills the leader and becomes the leader. So that's convenient. He then, at the end of season 5, he tried to help the bad guys and attack Blake, but Blake turned up with half of all Faunus and defeated the 6 the 6 White Fang dudes that Adam turned up with.
Yeah, it seemed like there might have been more off screen, but who knows? For all we know, that he had like 6 dudes.
He had 6 dudes, yeah. And Adam walks home.
Yeah, Adam gets bitched.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm defeated, and she's like, it's his turn to run away now, because that's presented as Blake's character flaw. She runs away, but now Adam, the evil man, has to run away.
Yeah, they're also ex-partners. And Adam's sort of a stalky ex-lover who won't leave Blake alone.
Yeah, he calls her darling.
He's also the one who cut off Yang's arm and who Yang was having PTSD about.
Yeah, so they both have PTSD about him.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the show is kind of shipping Yang and Blake, although it was very not confirmed and looked like bait for a long time. Although at this point, it seems like they actually are committing to it, which is kind of nice, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think so.
Yeah.
But, like, it's worth noting that, like, the most shitty thing to me was Volume 4 when they had their soundtrack released, and there was a song on it called Bumblebee, which is the name of their ship, which is about fucking them going to a garden of ecstasy together and being so in love. And then RT had to come out and say, hey, it's just a song that Jeff wrote because he likes it, and it's not canon, guys. Don't think that it's real gays. It's not canon gays. But then they kept baiting it, and I think at this point they're just committed and they have to make it canon.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just wish they'd hurry up and do it.
Yeah, yeah. They still haven't, like, kissed or anything. But it's sort of...
but
yeah.
it seems very, very likely for reasons that I'm sure we'll talk about.
So Adam got bitch slapped. His response to this was to go back to the White Fang headquarters, which is a giant hall for some reason, and just kill all of the White Fang, I guess.
Yeah, he kills apparently everybody, at least everybody at the place, which again, like, because you never see large crowds of White Fang anymore, it's like, was that all that was there? Is that all the White Fang? There was like those 6 guys. But he has a big hissy fit, and he kills everyone, and he's like, Blake, I hate you so fucking much, and he chops the throne in half, and he's like, I'm angry.
His character at this point has been reduced. At first he was treated like this sort of... It was a conflicted villain in terms of... He had a legitimate beef with humans about the way Faunus have been treated, and that could have been kind of interesting, but by this point he really is just stalky ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, like one of the characters, Weiss, is the heiress to the evil company that you find out fucking branded him
on the eye
later. Yeah, and are the big enemy of Faunus. They're always fucking with Sneedus company. But he doesn't give a fuck that Weiss is like there in the party when he's following them around, and he's never acknowledged her. He only cares about Blake.
He's never actually even like spoken to her or been in the same room as her, I don't think.
No, her and Ruby, for all we know, have no idea what he looks like or who he is.
Yeah, they've never seen him. It's only 2 of the main team have ever seen him or even know he's around.
Yeah, maybe they've seen him on a wanted poster or something off screen.
Yeah, yeah. So just bear in mind, every now and again throughout this season, we see Blake and Yang think they see Adam, and then
it happens once for Blake and once for Yang, and it's like, oh, they're having PTSD hallucinations, and I guess it's still what was happening.
Well, it's hard to say because he shows up at the end.
Yeah, so you find out at the end that he's been stalking them the entire time.
So maybe
somehow.
he was there.
He like somehow caught up with them, but like the way that they see him is clearly not literal because like Yang sees him in his old outfit he was wearing and he like does a slash all dramatically at the screen. And she's like, "Whoa, jump scared by Adam." But like clearly that didn't literally happen, but was he still there? We don't fucking know.
No, yeah.
Because it would make a little more sense if he followed them onto the train and then waited for them in town, and it just wasn't following them through their trek through the woods. But we have no indication that was the case, and we have no idea how he showed up again.
No, and that could have been actually dramatic if, like, as they were herding the civilians onto the train that was heading to the place they were going. If you saw one person in a hood and it was Adam, who was like hiding from them.
God, it's weird because I think the idea during one of the scenes later with Miss Malachite is that Adam was asking about them because she's like, "You're not the only one who was asking about Team RWBY," and but like, the timeline gets so confusing because then it's like we already saw him on the train, or did we? And it doesn't matter. He shows up, no matter how you look at it, it was super random. And even the people that were excited about it were like, "I don't know why he's here, but this is cool, I guess."
Yeah,
but that's later.
So yeah, the point is, the thing we just need to establish at the start is that he seems to have ended the White Fang, and now he's following them. Anyway.
Yeah, so just keep in mind during all these events, he's maybe there in the background somewhere.
Yeah, but we don't know. So Team RWBY and Crow and Oscar and Old Lady start walking to Atlas. Meanwhile,
Cinder.
So at the end of season 5, one of the bad guys, Cinder, who was also one of the four magical women, the maidens, who got the maiden. She stole the maiden powers off another maiden.
Yeah.
At the end of season 5, we saw her get frozen and fall off a cliff. Turned
like
out she
super
survived
far.
that.
Like you see her fall into the darkness like, whoa.
Yeah, she fell a long
and she's
way.
Frozen completely solid.
She
and we
survived,
were
don't
like,
worry.
we know she's not dead because she's been an antagonist for 5 volumes and they still haven't told us dick one about her. So it's like, clearly they're going to make her survive, but how are they going to excuse her not being dead? What kind of magics will be used to make her not die from this?
But this is the thing with RWBY, where it's like, yeah, that makes sense that we haven't learned anything about her, so it figures that she should be important later on. But I can never trust that they just mishandle something. Like, we're like,
wait, did you think she might actually be dead though?
Well, no.
I guess you already knew.
But I wouldn't have thought Roman was dead.
That's true.
Or Penny. Like, this is the thing where I think Penny's going to show up again. This is the other thing. Yeah. They've had characters who have been fun and interesting in the past, but they're the ones they tend to kill.
Yes, all the ones that people actually like, they kill.
Yeah, so there was Roman, who was a bad guy, he was basically a what's the word? The guys from Clockwork Orange.
Oh, he's a droogie.
He's a droogie.
He looks like a droogie, but he's like a mobster leader guy. He's like Team Rocket, but in this world with like super powerful magical girl people. So it's like he was always kind of funny because he didn't seem like he could fight super well. I mean, I guess he could hold his own, but that wasn't really his shtick. He was just like, I'm trying to do crimes and make money, and all these super girls keep attacking me, and I'm just trying to do my business.
Yeah. Until the last scene we saw him in, which was he was fighting RWBY and absolutely kicking her ass.
Oh yeah, she was like in the fetal position. He was kicking her, and I was like, yeah, this is some real ass shit now.
It was surprisingly harsh, and then he gets eaten by a dragon.
Yeah, and it was a pretty good scene.
Yeah,
but it was like, but you can't kill Roman. He's like the only likable villain.
Yeah. Now the thing is about Roman is he had a partner. He had a partner. There's this character called Neo, or Neapolitan, shortened to Neo.
I don't think she's ever referred to as Neapolitan in the show, but it is like on record that that's her name.
Yeah.
I guess they just like realize it sounds dumb if you actually call her Neapolitan.
Well, it looks dumb too. I mean, her color scheme is pink, brown, and white, which is why she's called.
It works.
I don't like it. I think her hair looks stupid. Anyway, she is. I don't even know if she's a she. Neo is mute. The thing that was cool about Neo is that because she didn't talk, she couldn't say anything dumb.
Yes, she was the best character because for this exact reason.
And whenever she fought, she generally always beat the person she was fighting, and mid-fight, she would constantly just sort of sit down with a smug shit-eating grin. And
Well,
that was
okay,
fun.
she only did the sit-down thing once, to be fair. She didn't make a habit of always doing that.
Okay, but I feel like she did it in the fight we're about to talk about at least a couple of times. Or at least once.
Oh, I guess she kind of like crouched, but yeah. But that was the cool thing about her is she managed to be very smug. Like she had a lot of personality despite not speaking, which is like hard to pull off well. But they actually managed to do it with her.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun. Now, she survived the fight with between Roman and Ruby, where Roman got eaten.
We didn't talk about how Cinder lived yet.
Oh yeah, sorry, no, yeah, yeah. So Cinder, well, we don't
Okay,
know.
so how did Cinder survive her crazy fall?
She just crawls. She landed in water.
Yeah,
it's
that's how she survived.
It's the classic thing is that she fell like 500 meters and landed in water, crawled out of whatever cave she was in, which I assume she had to like crawl a long way up.
It just cuts to her. It's just like it just cuts to her falling in the water, and then all the ice is like off of her conveniently, and I was like, oh, she's fine.
Yeah, well, they just wanted her to survive. She survives. Fucking whatever. Yeah, but this is what I mean. We're like, why couldn't Roman have survived? He was actually fun. Cinder sucks. I didn't need Cinder back.
And like the logic for who gets to survive what and whatnot, because like Penny is a robot, but everyone considers her definitely dead, even because she got cut in half.
Yeah,
but it's like, but she's a robot. Though.
She's a robot. Yeah, like yes, you cut her power off for a second, but she's a fucking robot, and she was fun, and now she's dead as well. Like, ugh.
Yeah, but then you can be completely frozen solid and drop into a seemingly endless abyss, and then it's fine. You fell in water. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Don't worry, Cinder's still alive, everyone. Hooray!
Yeah, we all love her.
Sexy evil lady has survived, yeah. Cinder was, like, vaguely interesting in Season 4 because she got really badly burnt by RWBY, and one of her arms became sort of like more like a Grimm creature's arms, and she couldn't talk properly, like her voice box was blown out. And she was suddenly very vulnerable and really sort of entirely dependent on Salem. And that did kind of make her interesting, but then, like, next season, they just forgot about that. She's fine, she can talk.
Yeah, she just, like, suddenly can talk normal again, and a guy's like, oh, I guess you're better.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
At the very beginning of the season. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Well done,
Glad
guys.
we spent time on that.
Yeah. So anyway, she survives.
Yeah, she's fine.
She is just... Now, because she's sort of... At the end of the last season, because she failed, someone says something vaguely, like, about how... To Salem, like, how, she failed, and they're, like, saying... And Salem says... Well, I'm not going to go rescue her, despite the fact that
that's in this season.
Oh, this season. Okay, so yeah, they talk about the idea of going and rescuing Cinder, and Salem's like, no, I'm not going to do that. She's going to have to earn her way back into my good graces somehow.
Yeah, because Salem, the big evil witch lady, seems to think of Cinder as like her superpower daughter or something. It's kind of interesting, except that it's like. It's one of those things where it's like, that could be interesting, but I bet they have no plan for what their relationship is or why it's that way.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that Cinder is one of the maidens. And Salem, for whatever her plan is, of the few things we know about what she's trying to do, she really, really badly needs the maidens. And if Cinder
apparently Cinder is supposed to become all the maidens at once.
Yeah, but if Cinder is killed, then that maiden power goes to some other random person. And... Salem is sort of back where she started. Maybe she just believes
in her daughter.
Yeah.
Maybe she just has faith in her daughter.
Yeah. Well, either way.
She loves her.
Cinder decides she's got to find RWBY and stop RWBY from taking the relic to Atlas. Because Cinder was after the same relic, right? So she's like, okay, this is her stated plan at the start of the season, stop RWBY getting to Atlas with the relic.
Well, to be fair, we don't hear her really talk about it until later with Miss Malachite, and we just know she's like looking for RWBY.
Yes.
And then later, once her and Neo fight and team up, she explains to Neo that you see, Cinder isn't allowed to kill RWBY, and that's been established for a little while. Salem said, "You can't kill RWBY. I want her alive for some reason. We don't know why." And so Cinder says, "Well, I guess we should wait till." Or I guess we can cover their thing and then cover the other people.
I was going to say, we could talk about this bit now because it doesn't actually connect to the rest of the plot.
Yeah. So she goes to a new character called Miss Malachite because she's looking for Team RWBY. And Miss Malachite is the first heavy woman, kind of a little bit in all of RWBY,
Yeah, yeah,
and she sits and eats ice cream, and that's her character.
yeah. And she's
She's
called
like
Little
an
Miss,
information
isn't she?
broker. Yeah, she's called Little Miss, like Little Miss Muffet, because everyone's a fairy tale character kind of sometimes.
But also, do you
And
get it? Do you get it?
but see, she's not little. She's a
No.
big lady. She eat a
Yeah,
ice cream.
yeah.
And so she's looking for Team Ruby, and Little Miss is like, but someone else was also looking for you, dearie. I'm Southern. I'm from Southern Remnant.
She's
And,
she's a
and
Southern
then,
belle.
yeah, and then Neo shows up, and she's like, hey, it's me. I'm fucking Neo. I'm the best character. I'm here to fight you.
And
And it's,
this was the thing. Like, Cube, you're a big fan of Neo, or you were.
no.
And I remember how pumped you were, and most of the people who've been watching it were when Neo showed up again.
We were a mix of pumped and terrified because of how the later seasons have been. We were like, please don't ruin our ice cream daughter. We beg you.
And what did they do?
Well, hey, at first, they have the best fight of the entire season.
Well, they have potentially the best fight of like the last three, really.
Oh, definitely. No contest. They have a really good fight. It's like well choreographed. It uses the environment in interesting ways. There's like these really satisfying hit effects. It's the best one. And we're like, Neo, you continue to bring the hits, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, like you've returned, and already you're improving the show.
Yeah, and she wants to fight Cinder because she blames Cinder for Roman dying.
Yeah.
But then Cinder's like, no, we shouldn't fight. And then Neo gets all scared because she uses a wind power. She does a windy thing. And then Neo is like, oh, I guess I'm scared of that. And we're like, no, Neo, you're too cool for everything. You can't be scared of anything, Neo. And then Cinder's like, we should team up to both kill Ruby. And Neo's like, I mean, she doesn't speak, but she looks like fine. And we're like, no, Neo, don't. And Cinder's like, let's talk about it. And then Neo points to her mouth like, get it? I can't talk. And Cinder does like an, oh, right. Like a, wah, wah. Mute people can't communicate, even though we have smartphones. Wah, wah.
Yeah. Anyway,
And then we're like, no, Neo.
don't
But
team
it
up
was a
with
good
her.
fight, though.
It was a really good fight.
Because Cinder isn't allowed to kill Ruby, she's like, I'm not allowed to kill Ruby. So I'm going to get you to kill Ruby, and then Salem Mom definitely won't be mad at me if I just made you do it instead.
Yeah, this makes no sense. Like, she's
Yeah,
trying.
it's like, why
she's
do
trying.
you think that she wouldn't know?
Yeah, she's trying to get back in Salem's good graces. So she's deliberately going to do the one thing Salem told her not to do.
But it doesn't count. I asked Neo to do it.
Yeah.
Takesies, backsies.
God.
Super literal.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Dummy.
yeah, so you think that they're going to be part of this season, right? Like you
Oh,
think.
yeah, because they say, like, we have to get her before she gets the relic to Atlas.
Yeah, that's the big
So
thing.
it's like, okay, so they have to meet back up before they get to Atlas.
Yeah, yeah. So when do we see them next?
At the very end.
We see-
After Ruby and team are safely on their way to Atlas and they don't meet up. And then they're
Yeah.
like, I guess we're going to sneak into Atlas. And it's like, okay, it's good to know there was no pressure or anything.
Yeah. They don't even care. Like, they doesn't even acknowledge that we didn't manage to stop her from getting to Atlas.
Yeah, they're like, fuck, we need a backup plan.
Yeah,
They're
no, it's
just
just
like,
no. It's just like, oh, this is fine. Don't worry, it's cool. Don't worry about it.
Hashtag this is fine.
Now, here's the thing, though. You were worried that they were somehow going to ruin Neo.
Yo.
So what happened?
Rest in peace, Neo. So Cinder shows up with her new sexy outfit, and Neo's like, pshoom, using my illusion power things that are poorly defined that I have. And now she's a big, sexy boob lady that looks like Yang, and she's got giant hair, and she's got, like, this goofy steampunk outfit.
Yeah.
It's like the weird lapels flopping over her boobs, and then the straps, and then the detached sleeves with the poof, and it's so unbalanced and bad, and it makes it sad.
They brought her back for
capri garters.
They brought her back for one more shot, like one more scene, and they managed to ruin her in the last, like at the very last minute. Like,
I really am convinced that they just used Yang's model as a base and
It looks like
made
Yang.
a new Neo from that.
It's the same hair and the same boobs. Like, And they
Just fucking
but they put stupid clothes on her. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, God, yeah, if you want to make her like a sexy boob lady now, I mean, she did always have cleavage and stuff, but then it's also super weird that like she showed up 10 minutes before and didn't have that body type now.
Yeah, yeah. Like the ending scene is Neo turning up with a stolen airship. Now, Neo's power, her semblance, I guess, semblances are people's powers. Everyone has an individual one. Her power is that she can shapeshift. She can look like anyone or anything. And it's never been
But
complete.
she can also like do illusions around her general area.
Yeah,
And sometimes she can teleport.
Yeah, no one. The thing with the semblances in RWBY in general is that they are never really well defined.
And sometimes they're like very specifically defined, and then they do a different thing.
Then they do a different thing. Yeah. So, and in Neo's case, it's in that last scene, it isn't even just that she can change her own appearance and change little things around her. She makes this airship look like an Atlas ship, and they're two completely different things, and she's changing this. So they're really just blowing out the scope of her powers to something kind of absurd. Like,
yeah, I call it now. She's a walking holodeck. Like,
yeah,
she can make things that are physical, but it's also illusions because she's a holodeck.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like this is another one of these powers where it's like, now that you've established she can do this, you're going to have to explain why she doesn't do this in other situations. Except
no, we don't. You're not our dad. We do what we want. We're RWBY.
Yeah. So anyway,
Rules just right.
That's the end of their story. They seemed like they were going to be important. They weren't.
Yeah.
Because the
Their
way
little side adventure.
the way that RWBY tends to work is that an entire season will be spent on one beat, and that's it.
Yeah, like they literally said we won't have another walking season where they're just walking to Atlas because that would be boring, and I guess they were being sarcastic now.
Yeah,
but it's like because then they did that.
Yeah, they did a whole season that was just transitioning from one location to another, and I mean, I guess at least this time, stuff definitely happened, but it didn't actually like change or advance the plot. There's no twisting or turning.
It kind of is. We learn things.
We learn things,
unlearn things.
We learn things, but at no point does what they learn change their plan in any way.
Yeah, it doesn't affect what they're doing at all.
No, like it doesn't throw up any barriers to what they're doing. It doesn't make them have to rethink it or modify or anything. They just...
I mean, they do for like 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, they're kind of bummed out, and then they just go back to what they were doing.
Never mind.
Yeah. So okay,
Wait, yeah, we got to get there.
Yeah, we got to get there. Okay, so we can get there now because I think we've covered we've covered all the other 2 bits that are going to show up at the end.
Yeah,
the main team.
When they just got out of the train, everyone's all like, "We had a bad time," and then Ozpin is like, "Where's the relic? Where's the relic of knowledge?" And Ruby's like, "I have it," and he's like, "Give it to me," and they're like, "No," and that was actually a nice moment because Ruby like was hesitant to give it to him, and it's like, oh, Ruby's showing some agency. It's been so long since she like did something on purpose, and so I was like, oh, that's a nice moment, and then Oscar, who the body that Ozpin is in, he's like, say her name is Jin, you say it, and she'll come out. And then
what?
And then she's like, Jin! And Jin comes out, and she's a big, naked blue woman with all the answers for you.
So it turns out that the Relic of Knowledge is kind of like a genie lamp. In that it has an actual...
I mean, it looks like a lamp.
Yeah, it looks like... Well, it is a lamp. But don't like the lamp in Aladdin. Like, it's like an actual, like a gas lamp. And...
I guess. It's got, like, all the fancy stuff on the side and whatnot.
It does, yeah.
It's kind of half and half.
So
it contains a genie, and we don't know if the other 3 relics also contain a genie, because the other 3 aren't lamps.
Yeah,
so,
well, we haven't even seen the other 3 yet, so
we have no idea what they do.
Yeah, but this genie, the Relic of Knowledge, has a genie or a Jinn called Jin in it.
Yeah, it's a Jin named Jin,
who is a sexy blue lady with giant tits, because of course. And when you use it, time freezes.
So yeah, time freezes in that the snow stops, but everyone in the general area is allowed to move still.
Yeah, is allowed to talk to the Jinn. Now, her deal is every 100 years, she will answer 3 questions completely truthfully.
Yeah, and he had told them this before, but he said that all the questions had been used up already, and so they couldn't use them. But he lied.
He lied. None of the questions have been used for this allotment of
That
100
one
years.
has.
So
So there's 2 available.
There's 2 available, yes. So they ask the genie.
What's Ozpin hiding from us?
Yes, and so begins episode
3.
Episode 3, The Lost Fable. Now, here's the thing. The thing about RWBY is that they are continually setting up new plot threads that they don't follow up on, and posing questions they don't answer, and it's just been more and more crap piling on top of each other as the season has gone on. And this episode was their attempt to answer some of those questions and explain the backstory of the world in a satisfying way. The thing is, all this episode did was just leave you with so many more fucking questions, and none of the answers make any sense.
It's a 24-minute lore dump episode, and all of the lore is like, wait, what?
All of the lore is utterly fucking insane. And completely unintentionally, it puts you 100% on the side of the main bad guy.
Yeah. Here,
Right.
I'm going to try to summarize the general points, like, quickly, and then we can go into more detail.
Okay, do it.
Because, okay, the basic idea is Ozma and Salem. Ozma is what Ozpin's old name was when he was a human boy. Ozma and Salem were lovers in a previous time where everybody had magic and everything was all mysterious and magical. And the 2 gods lived on the earth, on Remnant, and they just had pools that you could go visit them at, and they would just be chilling in their pools. And so Ozma saves Salem from a tower, and then he dies of disease. And so she goes to the God of Light, and she's like, bring him back to life. I want him. He's my boy. And God of Life is like, no, the balance, it's important. You can't. And then she's like, okay, fuck you. I'm going to go to the God of Darkness. And she's like, God of Darkness, bring my boy back. And he's like, okay, sure, that's fucking fine. And so the God of Darkness brings him back, and then the God of Light shows up, and he's like, no, you can't, stupid. And so there's like a really funny sequence where the God of Light kills him, and the God of Darkness brings him back, and then the God of Light kills him.
And they're just killing him over and over again.
And it's like, okay.
And remember, the God of Light is the good guy.
Yeah, he's the good one. He's like all disappointed dad, because he's like, I told you I wouldn't do it, and then you went to Mom because you knew Mom would say yes, and fuck you. And so he, as his way to say fuck you to Salem, he makes her immortal so that she can never be with Ozma, whom she loves. And so she keeps trying to kill herself, and she can't, because don't forget, this is all about the balance. The balance is very important. That's why he couldn't bring Ozma back. So he made a immortal person just because he doesn't like her. And then so she's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to get all the humans together, and I'm going to kill you gods, because obviously you're fucking assholes. And so she goes around and she gathers up all these kingdoms to go fight the gods. And the gods are like, fuck you. And the dark god snaps his finger, and they kill every single human in the entire world except for Salem.
Yeah, including people who weren't even fighting them.
Yeah, because she's like, I'll go get more people and bring them back and really kill you. And they're like, you don't get it. We killed literally every single person except you. just to say fuck you, because you're an uppity woman and we hate you. And she's like, what the fuck? And then they're like, okay, so we're out. We decided that this world is dumb and a bad experiment, and we made bad people. And so we're going to leave. And on their way out, the dark god runs into the moon, I guess accidentally. And because the entire show, the moon has been shattered, and it's been like this dramatic visual thing. And then you found out it's because the dark god yeeted into it, and it just like broke up, and it's like, oops. So that answers that, I guess.
Bumped into it on the way out the door.
It really feels that way. And then so it's like, okay, so Salem is here, and there's no more humans, and she's all alone. And then you see the dark god go to Ozma in like the afterlife zone.
No, the light god.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the light god. They're easy to mix up because they're both fucking assholes.
Yes.
And so the light god goes to Ozma, and he's like, hey, Ozma, so my brother did a real bad thing when he destroyed the everyone. I had nothing to do with it. There was nothing I could do about it. So I'm going to have you... Eventually humans will come back. He just drops that. He's like, humans will come back, they'll be fine. And we're like, wait, what? They'll just get better? and that's never addressed again. Don't worry about it. They'll be back.
Yeah.
So he's like, Ozma, I need you. I'm going to make these 4 magical items and throw them around, and I need you to go find them. And then if you bring them together, we'll kill everyone unless they've all learned to get along. You know, kind of like how they did when they all decided to team up and kill us. But no, the problem is that humans don't get along. And so if we come back and humans aren't all united, you know, which is like a very vague and like impossible thing to ask for, we'll fucking kill everybody. But if everyone's united, I guess we'll stay and hang out again. And I know that sounds like 2 bad options, but fuck you. And then Ozma's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be dead. That's because then at least I can see Salem. And he's like, no, actually you can't, because the thing is that Salem is immortal now. Don't know how that happened. Won't bring that up. And then Ozma's like, okay, I guess I'll be alive again.
But, except, you don't just get to be immortal, like I made Salem.
Look, he's not going to explain that part, because he's a fucking asshole. He just said that I'll make sure that you'll be alive until you can gather the 4 relics for me, but you'll never be alone. Yeah. And then the way that he's never alone is that he's continuously reincarnated into other men's bodies. It's always dudes. And he just takes over their fucking life. And it's very vague on, it seems to waffle back and forth on whether he subsumes their personality into his own.
Yeah, well,
this episode heavily implies that they are like 2 separate beings inside the same body and live together.
Yeah, that he tends to let the people live their own lives and have kids and all that stuff until he needs to go do something, and then he has to borrow the body.
Well, I think he like pops into them sometimes when they're older like that.
Yeah. Like
it's kind of weird.
There's a scene where you see him, like, he's just doing regular family stuff, and then Grimm attack, and all of a sudden he's ass-kicking Ozma, like, fighting Grimm.
Yeah. But then, like, the first body that he reincarnates into is, we have no idea what that guy's life was going to be, because he goes and finds Salem in it, and they have kids together and start a whole life together. So, who knows what that guy's deal was.
That poor guy.
Yeah, we don't, like, even get the impression that he has his own personality until he's like, what are we doing? And, like, a reflection is like, wait, have you been here the whole time? You just been hanging out while I, like, fuck my wife and shit? Okay.
Were you watching?
Yeah, I mean, he must have been. It's his body.
That's my dick.
But that's also the thing. Oh, yeah, so while Salem was alone, while she was waiting for humanity to come back, she kept trying to die, and she couldn't. So eventually she went into the dark god's evil dark pools, which are 2 pools called the Brothers Grimm. Get it? The Grimm come from the Brothers Grimm. It's 2 pools.
Reference.
And she throws herself into both of them simultaneously, I guess, somehow. It was like Schrodinger's pools. But instead of killing her, it makes her a being of pure destruction. Dun dun dun, that's what they say. That's what Jin says.
So in the time while Oz was gone, until he shows up again, what was she doing?
She was hanging out in a cabin having tea. For what must have been thousands of years, because humanity has reestablished itself and created, like, new civilizations and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's just been chilling in a fucking cabin, hanging out, having a good time, not bothering anybody. She's a being of pure destruction.
They say the locals refer to her as the witch, and no one goes to that building. So she really has just been leaving everyone alone.
Yeah, she's just been chilling. Like, maybe she does a little magical thing every once in a while, who knows? But she's not a being of pure destruction in any way.
No. So her and Ozma hook back up.
Yeah. And they have kids, and he tells her that he has, like, this general quest, but not exactly what will happen when he gets the relics together. And she says that the way that... Because Jin is narrating this whole thing, and she's like... Salem, fearing that Ozma would reject her, blamed the gods for the destruction of humanity. It's like, but they literally did it. He literally snapped his finger and every single human died.
Yeah, but the show wants you to think it's Salem's fault because she was uppity. Like,
that's... Yeah, because she, like, rose up against the gods and made them mad.
Yeah.
But it's like, if they know that humans can't do dick one against them, then it's fucking... They're such fucking assholes.
Yeah, either way. So,
Yeah, so she's trying to help him unite humanity, and so but like it's like a evil magical fascist rule. She's like, I'm going to bring everyone under us, and we're going to make war on the people who won't be united. And so I was like, okay, I can see why that's not cool, but he also doesn't seem to have too much of a problem with it.
no, he goes along with it for quite a while.
Yeah, until they have kids, and it turns out their kids are magic. And their kids are also 4 girls, so I guess the implication is that's where the 4 maidens come from somehow, but that hasn't really been explored yet.
Yeah, but because they line up with the colors of the seasons and shit, which is where the maidens get their names. And anyway.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear. But so she's like, oh, our kids have magic. Okay, well then fuck uniting humanity, because it's fine. We'll just make our own, like, humanity with our magical babies. And I guess interbreed a lot, and which we'll worry about that later. And then he's like, oh no, you seem kind of crazy now, so I'm going to leave with the kids. And then she's like, okay, fuck you, I'm going to kill you. And so she kills Ozma's first body that he reincarnated into. And I guess maybe the girls, we don't know if she killed them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't see
that. But, so ever since then, he's been reincarnating in different bodies, gathering the relics, putting them in these schools and stuff. And Salem has been chilling, I guess, making plans, theoretically. She hasn't done shit.
We don't know what Salem has been doing in this time. And
after all this exposition, we have no idea what she wants.
This is the thing. We still don't know what her plan is. Even after this lore dump episode, it's impossible to know what she's been doing because we do not know what she is trying to do.
Yeah, we've asked actual RWBY fans, who like it unironically, and there's a lot of different answers, and people seem pretty confident in their answers, which is the weird thing about RWBY.
Yeah.
People will tell you, well, obviously it's this, but then another person will be like, wait, that doesn't make any sense because they didn't say that. So they'll be like, well, she wants to bring the gods back to kill everybody because she thinks that they'll kill her too. And then another person will be like, but that doesn't make any sense because they didn't kill her the last time. They were just like, fuck you, bitch. And then so it's like, okay, well, she wants to make sure that he can't, but it's like, but she wants to gather all the relics apparently. So nobody knows.
No, yeah, it's the easiest way to start an argument between 2 RWBY fans is ask them what Salem's plan is because everyone has a different answer. Because
and she's the main villain.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what her plan is, and this is maybe the biggest issue with RWBY is it's impossible to write a story or do a plot where the protagonists have something to work against if you don't know what the villain's trying to do. We don't even know what they're trying to stop, really.
Yeah, and it's you could do that. We just know that she's, fucking people over and we don't know why. But they act like we know why.
Yeah.
And I think in their minds we know why and we know what she wants. But they didn't tell us and it's not established.
No, because it's hard to work out as well. Because, these are the options. Right? The only thing we know that Salem is doing at this point now is that she is trying to gather all the relics.
Do we know that?
Well, that's what she. Well, that's what she
wants the relics in general. We don't know if she wants all 4 together.
No, well, yeah. Well, she was trying to get the relic of knowledge through Cinder, at any rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the idea that she wants to bring the gods back. Why on earth would she, of all people, want to bring the gods back?
Yeah, the gods are basically her abusers.
Yeah, they have done nothing but fuck her over from day one.
Yeah, and she knows that she can't do anything against them theoretically.
No, yeah, she if it was discovered she had some leverage over the gods now, it might make sense. Because for the most part, through that lore episode, you see for most of her history, her goal has been, I'd like to die. Can I just die, please?
Yeah, all she wants to do is fucking die.
Yeah, that's all she wants to do, and they won't let her. And,
But the balance, though...
This is the thing. This is where we got to go back. Going back to the start of this lore episode. It all starts with... they establish that we're meant to think the god of creation is a cool dude and the god of destruction is a bad dude. Now, first of all, you see the god of destruction create things and the god of creation destroy shit. So they have the same powers.
Yeah, it's completely arbitrary.
It's extremely arbitrary. And Salem's initial thing of just being grieving for the loss of her lover and going to the god of creation and just asking, can you bring him back? Is treated like the most unreasonable, ridiculous thing that anyone could ever ask.
She's punished for eternity for it.
Yeah,
and
because she asked
she didn't
2
even
people.
She didn't lie. Yeah,
No.
she didn't tell the dark god that, oh, I totally didn't ask your brother. She just went to another guy to also ask him.
Yeah, and then then after watching that light god murder Ozma over and over again. She's angry with him and yells at him, and that's when it changes her to be immortal, so she can never be with him again.
Yeah, and it's like
Like,
such a reasonable reason to be mad at someone because you're like seeing like and he's like aware each time. He's like, "Where am I?" Ah, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Ozma."
yeah. He does like the Light God does this awful thing. She's angry at him and yells at him, and it's okay. You're going to be punished by living forever in a horrible way, away from the
Though
away
he
from
does
one
imply
person
like
living here.
if you learn your lesson, will make you unimmortal, which
Yeah, what-
presumably is like I guess she's supposed to come back groveling to them like I've learned the importance of death. Please, like I'm subservient to you.
It's so fucking creepy. And anyway, so when she grabs all those other kingdoms and makes them fight the gods. Yeah, one, she's united humanity. Two,
Yeah.
the humans all being wiped out isn't that big of an issue in that scene for the God of Light, and he's the one who's fucking obsessed with the balance. Like,
Yeah,
everyone
and then
got
he's just
killed,
like,
it's fine.
oh my god, killed everybody. Sorry,
Yeah.
bro, did it.
The difference in the way that he's played in the scene with where they kill all of humanity and the scene where he talks to Ozma, like it really is stark. Like, because the scenes are right next to each other. It really is stark in the way that, like, in the scene where all humans are killed, he is very much this aloof, separated, distant god who's going, "Oh, this didn't really work out as an experiment." And then when he's talking to Ozma, he's talking about humans like he loves humans so much and he wants so badly to be back with them and blah 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 blah. Like, it doesn't.
It's like he's supposed to be this disappointed dad kind of figure, but like the lack of internal logic makes him seem like this fucking insane, like manipulative asshole. But
Yeah.
he's not as knowledge. The show doesn't like tell you that.
No,
Like,
yeah,
it feels like the show wants
it-
you to think that he was in the right, but he's clearly fucking nuts.
Exactly, yeah, and he's like, it looks like he's lying to Ozma. Like that's how it comes across. But you can tell the show
no, I
doesn't
mean like the
want you
immediate
to
reaction
think
is
that.
what?
Like,
No, you can't say that.
yeah, no, but the show clearly wants you to think the Light God's the good dude.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, like you said, those two options that he gives them, if we bring the gods back, either we kill all of humanity again, or we come and live with you again. And why would you
And all
want
they
either
did was
of those
hang out
things?
in their pools, and for some reason nobody went to them ever except for Salem. I guess because everyone else knew that they were fucking assholes.
Yeah, it's just like, don't go to those guys. They're pricks. They'll do something awful to you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Why would you want them
these are
around?
both bad options.
Yeah. And
But
again,
we're supposed to think that the Light God is a good option. Oh, also, by the way, Faunus, if you were ever wondering where Faunus came from, where this other species of magical animal people came from, you finally find out this episode. Ozma's reincarnated, and he's like, and he looks around, and also Faunus were here now, and he's like, that's weird.
And where were the Faunus?
I'm glad.
They were in cages. Like,
That's right. Yeah, people were
the-
keeping them in fucking cages.
there's one shot of a bunch of Faunus angry in cages, and they go, and there were strange new creatures, and that's it. that's the
Yeah,
entire
it's
backstory
like-
of the Faunus.
Of all the things that you could have actually explained that we were wanting explained. But nah.
Nah.
So they learn all of this shit, and in the end, they're like, well, I guess let's keep taking the relic to Atlas, because we don't have anything else to do.
Well, the other thing that you learn at the end is you see over the eras different versions of Ozma asking Jin different questions about, like, where are the other relics, da 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 da. And the last question you see him asking in that episode is, how do I kill Salem? And the Jin
Yeah.
says, you can't.
You can't.
And we discover that Ozma has no plan.
Yeah. They're like, so what's your
has-
plan then? And he's like, I don't have one.
His
Which,
face.
again, like in a show that felt planned, that could be an interesting twist.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a show that clearly has no plan in itself, and then the main protagonists also have no plan that they're following, and nothing matters, and who gives a fuck?
It's great because, yeah, like the show's admitting we had no plan. I'm not surprised he has no plan. How could he? You've written yourself into a corner. Like,
That's the one true thing he said. That's the one thing he said that they don't have to retcon.
yeah, is that he doesn't have a plan.
There's
which,
no plan.
Which again, like, he's always, the way that Ozpin had been played up to this point was constantly confident. He's always, everything is proceeding according to plan, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
When this entire time he's just, I guess, been winging it. and
No, yeah, there's been
all of the
nothing.
moves he's been making don't actually make any sense because he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a plan.
I mean, I guess until the fall of Beacon, theoretically, he might have had. You could say that his plan was just, keep the relics safe, don't let Salem get him, which would be fair enough.
Yeah, but in this thing, he's established like, what's your plan for killing Salem?
Yeah.
And up to this point, that hasn't really been anyone's goal. Like,
No, yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, they've been being trained to be hunters to kill Grimm, and now they, like, have suddenly found out Salem exists. They've, like, seen an image of her for the first time at the end of Volume 5, and now it's, like, all these characters' entire life goal, because she seems like a final boss kind of person, so now they
Yeah.
have to kill her.
yeah, even though there isn't, as far as we've established, there isn't really a way to kill her.
Yeah, and now we know that there's no known way to kill her, but they're
and
like, we gotta fucking do it, though.
Yeah, because I guess, yeah, okay, she destroyed Beacon, but without knowing what her plan is, we still don't really know. Like, this sort of seems like
we don't understand what the stakes are for, like, the rush or anything.
No,
because, it seems like you'd want to play it safe now, like, kind of hunker down, because, like, if you can't kill her and you just know that she's going to be attacking these places, but no, they're like, we need to go kill her right away. There's no time.
Yeah. They all of a sudden they're in a rush to get Atlas, and it doesn't.
And it's like, before what happens?
Yeah, before she does what? We don't know what she's trying to do. It almost seems like if you sat Salem and Osmond down, they might have been able to figure something out.
Yeah, but he ran off.
Depending on what it was Salem wants to do, because she's not trying to unite humanity anymore, or take over the whole world or anything. It seems like she's explicitly trying to. I mean, yeah, maybe she's trying to kill everyone, but like, why?
Maybe she is trying. No, because her song says she's gonna divide them, tear them apart.
Yeah. That's like, but it's like, the trouble with the RWBY music, and there's a lot of RWBY music, is it's written by a different guy who, as far as we know, is just making up his own better version of RWBY.
It's like they give him a general idea of what's going down, and then he, like, makes up a headcanon version of it that's, like, cooler a lot of the times than what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Because, like, RWBY has this dead mom that's theoretically really important to her, and in the songs it's like this thing that she's super torn up about, but then in the show it's like, oh, I was a baby and I don't really remember her at all, and she, like, never comes up almost, and so it's like we never know how much of what's explicitly said in the songs is canon, kind of like the Bumblebee thing where they were like, no, it's gay, but it's not real gay.
No, it's actually happening.
So yeah, sometimes you get the idea of what's happening from Jeff, and it's like, nah, he's full of it from his music. But, yeah, so theoretically she wants to divide people.
Yeah, theoretically she's trying to divide humanity. So you could sort of maybe say that she's trying to divide humanity and get the relics together so she can call the gods down, humanity will be divided, they get wiped out. But what good does that do her? Why would she want that?
Yeah, just as a fuck you, I guess.
Yeah, but, like, so what? She just gets to be alone again?
Yeah, and then will humanity just come back again? Because they already did that once before.
Yeah, like...
So, what do you want, Salem?
Yeah, like, we had the big lore dump episode that was meant to explain everything, and it's only made everything more confusing.
Yeah, and there's so many, like, elements of it that the characters should be bringing up and asking about, but they don't. Like, because there's these pools that if you get dipped in one, you're immortal, and if you get dipped in the other... I mean, the other is where all Grimm come from.
Yeah.
But, like, nobody has brought up, like, so where are these pools, then?
Yeah, they're still on the planet somewhere, one assumes. And no one's found them.
So it's like, can you be immortal? Can you go to the source of all Grimm and fucking nuke it?
Why didn't Oz go to one of those pools when he was in one of those bodies?
So,
you know what I mean? Like, they've established all of this dumb lore. They've confused all of the characters' goals.
I feel like this is going to end up being a 5-hour podcast now.
Well, we're an hour and 21 in.
Oh, yeah. We got to get to the fucking Dementors, though.
Yeah, we do. Well, that's next. It's so frustrating. This episode was just so fucking frustrating because...
And you could, like, feel how proud they were of it.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, they think this shit is great. This is the thing. Most of the time when you see Miles or Kerry talking on, like, social media, it's usually Miles. And Miles seems really proud and very satisfied with how RWBY's going.
Yeah, I don't know.
We sort of wondered if Kerry was or wasn't, but a while ago he tweeted a gag about how he still laughs at the word poop or something, but in it he mentioned that he makes a show that influences millions.
Millions of people.
I influence the
Peepo.
lives of millions of people. It's like, dude,
Like, calm down, Carrie. It's a RWBY.
it's a very bad anime show.
But yeah, and it's like, and it seems like a lot of the fans loved episode 3. And I think it's just because, like, a lot of fancy stuff was happening and it feels kind of epic. But when you really think about everything that happened in it, it's just like, my thought always comes back to, like, a teenager making up lore for his D&D campaign that doesn't really matter.
It's exactly like that. Like, the writing of RWBY is on that level.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if I keep adding things, oh, now there's 4 relics, not just 4 maidens. And it's like, whoa, isn't that cool, guys? And the guys are just like, let's have a cool fight, though.
It's just this amateurish writing where they're making all the mistakes that a young writer would make.
But they're adults.
And amazingly, over the course of 6 seasons, they are not learning. They are not getting any better at this. Like, at all.
But I mean, again, like, why would they need to get better? People love it.
Yeah. That's the thing. They think they're nailing it, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, it influences millions.
They were, at least on season 4, they admitted they thought they got overambitious, which I'm still not sure what that means in terms of what happened in season 4, where, like, you said,
like, overambition is...
3 characters set at home.
Yeah. Is crazy.
Yeah.
But the next thing that happens is something they were very, very proud of, because they've been waiting to do it since before Volume 1.
Yeah.
So what happens, Feen?
So what happens is, let's do a 2-part episode about something completely irrelevant.
Let's find a spooky house.
Yeah, they find a spooky house. So while walking, they hit a deserted village, like a tiny village. It's like 8 houses.
20 people. Yeah.
And they hang out there, and while they're there, they are sort of questioning. Well, like Crow is really busted up about this because he found out that Oz is a liar. Oh, by the way, Oz has because he's so ashamed of the fact that he has no plan, he has retreated into the back of Oscar's mind and isn't coming out again.
I was waiting to hear if you were going to say mind or balls.
I should stop saying
He's
balls.
deep in my balls.
The balls is a Discord joke that Osman lives in people's balls.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like, I'm in my room. I've locked myself in my room. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm real sad.
Yeah.
So Ozpin isn't there to explain anything to them conveniently, and Crow is like, I've been risking my life for years for I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
And Crow has an alcohol problem. And now it's a problem, because before he was like the funny drunk, but now that he's depressed, the characters are really mad at him for drinking.
But the first time when his alcoholism is maybe somewhat justified.
It's like he gets shit-faced once because his entire life has been turned upside down, and RWBY is like, fuck you, Uncle Crow, you piece of shit. How dare you have a disease.
This should be a cool moment in terms of his character. That he should be in the middle of this massive existential crisis, and he kind of is.
It's like him understanding that like his drinking is actually a problem would be a fair enough plot point if people were being like supportive of him and shit.
Or if they really needed him to do anything, but they don't.
Yeah, like his alcoholism never becomes like we got in trouble because you were drunk and that's why we couldn't fight the Grimm. No, he's in their downtime, he gets drunk.
Yeah, like literally in this little 2-episode arc, they are doing nothing. They're resting, and he gets drunk, and they're mad at him for getting pissed while they're just sitting around doing nothing. I guess
he was supposed to be on watch, but he's fucking sad.
Yeah, he's really sad.
And I guess
in a
RWBY does
way.
be like, you can talk to us, Uncle Crow, but they're still being bitches. And also, he was getting super drunk partly because he was under the influence of Dementors.
Yes, okay, so the thing about this town is it's weird and spooky. They can't work out where everyone is. Like, there aren't any corpses around, I don't think.
No, there's corpses. Remember, they find the corpses in the beds, and then he's
that's
like,
right,
they're
yeah,
all like that. So everyone died in their beds.
Everyone just died in their beds. And,
so spooky, scary.
And what's happening, and this sort of made sense in the context of the last episode. Everyone is sort of going, what the fuck are we even doing? Like, why are we even bothering?
So you think that they're just, like, sad about that, but then, like, they're like, too sad. And then they're like, I'm just so tired.
They start talking in, like, real monotones. And everyone sort of talks
and then they don't have the highlights in their eyes, so you know shit's up.
They talk about the idea of, like... This is my favorite bit. They talk about the idea of, like, why don't we just throw this relic down this well? Because, like, if we take it to Atlas... it'll probably just get attacked, whereas Salem might never, ever find it if it was just at the bottom of this random well in a random town in the middle of nowhere. And then Ruby comes to her senses and goes, no, we can't do that. But hang on, go back. That was actually a good idea.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, at first Weiss broaches it by, hey, why are we going to Atlas? And we're like, yeah, fucking why are you? Like, we have guessed that they want to protect the relic there, but that's, like, they haven't really talked about it. Osmond just said, we should take the relic to Atlas. That's all he said. Yeah. So when she's like, why are we going to Atlas? We thought it was, like, this big revelatory moment of, like, yeah, they don't have a good reason. And then it's like, no, we have to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it because the guy who now is not talking to us because we found out he's a liar told us to. And that remains the motivation for doing it.
The guy who canonically has no plan whatsoever said that we should do it.
Yeah. And that for the rest of the season, that remains the reason they're doing it, is because the guy with no plan told them they should do that.
Yeah, like, so you need to remember that later with the things they do, is that they never get any more justification for what they're doing other than it's a thing Osmond told us to do at one point.
Yeah. So
she's like, I'm going to, I'll just drop it in this well and then we'll just leave it here and then Salem probably won't even find it. And then Ruby's like, no, I can't do that. But she drops it anyway, accidentally. And then she sees a spooky scary at the bottom of the well.
And it turns
down there.
So they jump down the well to get the relic back. And beneath this well is a sewer system suitable to a city of, 10,000 people or so.
It's a giant-ass video game, sewer, waterworks, everything.
For a town with 8 buildings. Like, this town would not have running water. They would have,
you would have an outhouse.
Yeah, but no. Giant fucking sewer system.
Connected to the well, by the way.
So, yeah. How is that well any good for getting water?
Oh, I can't wait to pump up that poo-poo water.
Can you go to the shit well? I need another bucket of shit.
Oh, it's so goofy. Video games!
They go down there. Now, Ruby is now immune to whatever this mood-altering thing that's happening is.
She's like weirdly resistant, and we never learn why.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because of the silver eyes.
Yeah. Ruby has silver eyes, by the way. Ruby has
silver eyes, and sometimes it lets her do like a weird blom.
Yeah,
but it's only happened twice, and only one time did it do anything.
Yes. Yeah. She has a Deus Ex Machina power that can destroy Grimm.
It can do whatever you want it to do.
Yeah, pretty much. So
what's in the well?
Down the well is this thing. What did they call it?
They call them the apathy, and they make you apathetic.
It's a Grimm that has the unique effect of making people apathetic. So what happened to this previous town is this thing showed up and everyone just stopped caring about everything and went to bed and died.
And it's great because they find that out later because Maria is reading the history of the town that a guy wrote all of in a book. And she's specifically reading it from beginning to end, and I guess she doesn't want spoilers, so she doesn't skip to the end to find out how everyone died.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what happened to this town, and Maria's like, no, I am reading this in order.
I'm reading it for our bedtime story. And so, she's like, I'm starting with volume 1. And she's, slowly going through various volumes of it. And then, at the end, she's like, I found out what happened at the end of the last volume. Who would have guessed?
After they defeated this Grimm. So, Ruby's having real trouble getting everyone to actually fight. There is a beautiful shot of, Blake about to be eaten. And she's just sort of lying on the ground, staring into camera going, this is fine.
Yeah, so the apathy are re-deads. It's very much like an Ocarina of Time when you go into the Kakariko well and there's re-deads. Yes. It's just that.
Yeah.
And so they even do a screech and then you stop because you're frozen because re-deads.
But Maria is also unaffected by this thing. And
or at least resistant like Ruby.
Yeah, and Maria's resistant like Ruby, so she somehow knows that Ruby has silver eyes. Because this is the thing, Maria is this old lady who's wearing these goggles, these technical goggles, and we get to see things from her perspective finally, and she sees everything in black and white. Just never.
Yeah, it's in blue tones because they're blue because of technology. It's, like Tron.
Yeah, Maria's
but see, Ruby uses her powers, but shittily.
Yes.
She's like, oh no, all my friends are gonna die and be killed by these Dementors, and so she goes bah with her eyes, and it kind of burns them, but not so good. And then Maria's like, Ruby, what color are your eyes?
And Ruby's like, silver. And Maria goes, what does she instruct her to do? It's like, think
She
about your
says,
friends.
don't think of them. Yeah, she's like, okay, don't think about any of this. You got to get your mind on. And she's like, you have friends, family, think of them. And it's really funny because you see Ruby look off screen, and Maria says, don't think of them. And like you're supposed to guess that she was looking at the Grimm, but I really thought she was looking at like Blake and people who were dying. So it's really funny when Maria's like, "Don't think of them, think of your friends."
It's just badly directed as usual.
Yeah, and so it turns out that Ruby can use her Deus Ex Silver Eyes by thinking. It's not happy thoughts. It's not a Patronus.
No,
okay?
no,
it's not a Patronus that you use against Dementors. You have to think about life and how happy it makes you, but
yes.
like how precious and cool it is.
Yeah, you got to think about your friends. It's about friendship. You got to think positive thoughts. Not Patronus. It's not a Patronus. It's just
not a Patronus because it's about life. It just so happens that everything you need to think about the value of life is positive thoughts.
So, bear in mind. The first time we ever saw Ruby use the Silver Eyes, and entirely involuntarily, was when she watched one of her friends die.
Yeah, she saw one of her friends be murdered, and then she goes, "Pira!" That's the Japanese version. And then she does big silver eyes, and then it turns a dragon to stone and burns half of Cinder, I guess.
Yeah, and temporarily wipes out all of the Grimm that were attacking Beacon.
Yeah, and she's like, fuck! And so we're supposed to think that during that, she was concentrating intensely on the value of life and happy thoughts and how great the life is.
Yeah, because it like in this season it's established that the Silver Eyes don't work if she gets distracted by negative thoughts, including, later on...
Yeah, one of the negative thoughts is when Pyrrha died.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay,
yeah.
so anyway, she Silver Eyes the Dementors with her Patronus, and they all die. Everyone wakes up and is fine.
They don't all die. Remember that, like, they get super burned, but then they're running out, but there's more Dementors. And then Weiss is like, "I'll fucking get them," and then she throws all the alcohol and sets it on fire, even though she could just do that with her magic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's all like, "Oh wow, so badass! She lit a fire, a small fire." It's like she can shoot fire. She can shoot fireballs.
She can summon giant monsters. She can do so much random shit.
Yeah, but only when they feel like it.
Yeah. Anyway, so then they're leaving, and as they're leaving, Maria finally gets to the end of the book and explains, and this is like, I can see why they might have wanted to establish this early, like this might have been an early idea, because this was actually a kind of cool idea. So the issue with small settlements is obviously attracting Grimm, right? And Grimm come when you have negative thoughts, or you're panicked, or you're scared. But there is this one Grimm that can suppress those sort of thoughts and make everyone kind of calm. So this hunter had the idea of just trapping one and sticking it in the well underneath the city to keep everyone's sort of calm and level so that the Grimm wouldn't be attracted to the village.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all of the rest of this Grimm's family showed up and it made everyone so apathetic they all died. And that was what went wrong.
Oops.
But the thing to bear in mind, though, is that this is the first any of these hunters have ever heard of this type of Grimm.
Yeah, none of them have any idea that this kind of thing is a possibility, even though they, like, went to school specifically for that. And apparently it's something that's known enough that these, like, random farmers knew all about them and how to use them.
Yeah, and tried to use them in that way. But to them, this is new information. So what does Maria do with the book full of all this information?
And she throws it, and she throws it into the snow in the woods, and they say, fuck that shit.
They wanted to have a dramatic end shot where like the book lands in the snow in front of the camera while their car.
Like, how dare they have done such a transgression against humanity?
But it like
but
that was
important
valuable information
though. Fuck learning.
Anyway, that's the end of that 2-episode arc.
But yeah, it makes, like, her doing that action makes more sense when you know it was never supposed to connect to anything or matter because it was just an idea they've had floating around since before the show started. But it's also like when Miles talks about this idea, he's like, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to combine the town from Serenity with, and then Carrie reminded me of that Redeads. And it's so weird to hear someone be so proud about, like, so this idea is just a copy of this, and that's what we did, and it's really good, and I'm really proud of it. It's like, this, what?
No, dude, no. Like, you don't, that's not how this works.
That's not usually the things that you get super proud of.
you, like, yeah, like you're allowed to sort of talk about the things that you've liked and how you reincorporated them, but if you have just directly ripped them off as much as you did, you don't get to be proud of that.
Yeah, like, I hadn't even thought about the Serenity Town thing. It's like, oh yeah, they do come there and everyone's just lied down and died because of, but it was drugs instead of Dementors.
Yeah. It's just, guys, come on. Like, they're just so amateurish. They're so amateurish that they don't recognize that this is not a good thing to just say, yeah, we just sort of ripped off these two other ideas.
It's so teenager. Anyway. It's so weird.
So that's the end of that.
Yeah, so that's the end of that. None of that matters. Fuck it. But, like, so Crow was drinking heavily because he was under the, influence of these Dementors, but they're still super pissed at him about it. And, like, shitting on him. And so it's weird. But then, the other thing Maria tells them while they're traveling the rest of the way to Argus, which is this port that they need to go to get to Atlas, is, like, Ruby's like, how do you know about how to use the silver eyes? And she's like, I had silver eyes. And we were so excited in the Discord because she doesn't have eyes now. So we thought, oh shit, does silver eyes burn your eyes out? Because at least, like, that would be a consequence that you have to face for using them. And that's, like, kind of hardcore.
Because the problem with silver eyes up to this point has been, like, what, so you can just use them whenever you want?
Yeah, it's super OP. And like, the entire theoretical premise of this show used to be having cool fights, like cool kinetic fights against monsters. And the power of Silver Eyes is to completely not have a fight, as we will see at the finale.
Yeah, you just get to wipe everyone out in one AoE, and you're done. And
so at least if it was like I can only use them when it's absolutely necessary, and then it's a big deal because they're going to be, like, burning my eyes out, then that'd be kind of okay.
Yeah, but no.
No,
Sorry.
It turns out that we see a big flashback episode thing of Maria, and she's, like, fighting a Grimm, and she's not very good at it, even though she's, like, the super famous hunter, apparently.
She was the Grim Reaper.
Yes, the Grim Reaper. Oi, love, it's me, Tuck. I'm the new one-off villain for this flashback, love. And the reason why Master told me to kill you is because of your eyes.
So if you're wondering why Mary's doing that accent, there was another...
Oi, my name's Tuck.
Another irrelevant episode. There's just a flashback to explain what Maria's deal was, and we see her losing her eyes to a crocodile lady faunus called Tok, who has it's somewhere halfway between a Cockney accent and a bad Australian accent.
Oi, governor. I really do think that she wanted to be Australian, but all she knew was Tracer.
Or maybe
it's just supposed to be Cockney. It's hard to say.
It sounds to me like a character from a Guy Ritchie film, like someone doing an impression of Jason Statham.
Yeah, it's
bad. It's
and
extremely
she has big, really goofy looking metal teeth. Like, and instead of looking like teeth or looking like a bear trap, they just look like someone, like, scribbled like a zigzag. and it's supposed to be all dramatic. She's like, "You're the Grim Reaper, and these are the last 60 seconds of your life." And she shows her stupid teeth.
It's this common thing with RWBY. When at the end of every episode of RWBY, whenever they introduce something new, they always show the concept art for it. And it's a really common thing that the concept art always looks so much better than how you actually executed it.
That's the thing about RWBY is, like, it really feels like there's a lot of artists on the show that are doing their best. And you feel bad for them because they're working so hard.
Yeah, but from what we know of RWBY, the timelines are horribly mismanaged to the point where episodes are being finished as they are being put up.
And it's like, so you have a week, and they're also working on Genlock simultaneously, and it's, like, an unusually small animation team. So it's like they're clearly all doing their best, but then some stuff just, like, you can tell there was no time.
Yeah,
Like, when Ruby dramatically uses her eyes, it's this really bad gradient that just kind of gets bigger, and it looks like shit, and it's like, you just know that it was like, we have 5 minutes, make her do the silver eye thing as best you can in After Effects.
Yeah, and it's like, it's always like, it always seems, the last 2 seasons has always seemed to be like, as it gets to the crunch at the end of the season, everything gets shittier, and we actually start to see fewer fights, and I'm willing to bet it's because they just don't have the time to animate that shit.
Yeah, because like the animation early on in the season was like, oh, they're being pretty impressive. But then you get to episode 3, which required so many assets and so many environments and so many different kinds of people and animations, and it's like, what a waste. Like they must have used so much time on this, and it was all nonsense. Yeah. And it could have been put towards like the cool plot relevant stuff or fights.
Just a cool fights. This is a cool fight show. This is all this show was ever meant to be.
Yeah, but no longer. Now we're about the lore, man.
Yeah, the amazing story. So, okay, so they get to Argus. Is it Argus?
Argus, yeah.
Argus. It's a city. I thought this was Atlas at first. I was very confused, but it's like technically part of Atlas.
No, it's technically still part of the continent. They're on Mistral, but it's like Atlas has a big military base there. So they have like a lot of control over it, I guess.
Yeah, and they have a setup for defending it against Grimm as well. So they're essentially the town's like protection, I guess.
Yeah, and the idea is that because they have that military base there, because Atlas is on military lockdown, they think that they can go up to the base and be like, hey, we need to get to Atlas, and they'll be like, okay, we'll let you through, we'll put you on a boat to Atlas or whatever.
And they have a few things that would make them think they might have a way in. So Crow is on good terms with this General Ironwood, who's like the head of the Atlas military, and also Weiss
they're both in the same like secret club.
Yeah, and Weiss, apart from being an Atlas citizen, she's the daughter of the Schnee Dust Company, which sort of is like the de facto the company that's actually in charge of Atlas.
Yeah, they're like superpower corporation.
Yeah,
but it's so weird because it's been, like they constantly forget how long it's been. The fact that it's been presumably 2 years, at least one, but all the characters are 2 years older than they were before. But so like Atlas has not allowed a single person or civilian in or out for 2 years.
Yeah,
which,
2 years.
There would be riots in the streets. Like shit would be fucked.
Yeah, they're like
even capitalism is like they can't trade in and out.
Yeah, like trade wars are a thing that cause capitalist societies to lose shitloads of money. Like, this would be a huge problem.
Yeah, Atlas should be super fucked.
Also, like, the Schnee Dust Company, it basically means the rest of Remnant has not had any dust.
Yeah.
2 years. Because all the dust comes from Atlas. So...
Apparently.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, we don't actually know, but that's where the Schnee Dust Company is. So...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it makes no sense. But so they figure that they can go up to the military base, explain the situation, and they'll let them in. But unfortunately, the military base is run by a funny little fascist lady, and her name's Cordovan.
Her two fucking absurd goof guards who just don't fit into any of these scenes.
Yeah, they're from a different show, but they've decided to come to RWBY. Hey, guys. They're like, hup, 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 hey! They're
like two things out of a fucking Gary's Mod video, but everything else is. Meanwhile, this lady's just tiny fascist, which that's really funny in today's climate. Fascism.
Yeah,
hey.
It's presented as a funny thing. She's like, oh, glorious military, ha ha ha. But then she's also fucking racist.
yeah.
So it's like, what are we supposed to think about this character? Is she the funny haha fascist, or is
but she's
she
not
like a racist threat?
But she's not racist because she's only like racist towards Blake for being a Faunus, and the Faunus aren't a separate race.
Oh, that's right. She's speciesist.
Remember, guys.
It's not a race.
It's not a race analogy. It's not a race analogy. It's never was a race analogy. Even though
species. It's a species that you can hide under your hat. So she's like, fuck you guys, I'm not letting you into Atlas. If Miss Schnee wants to come to Atlas, she can, but only her, and fuck the rest of you.
I mean, and this is the thing, again, okay, give Weiss the relic, she takes it to Atlas.
No, they promised they'd never break up again. And honestly, I can understand not wanting her to go alone, because then like her dad would probably fucking lock her up somewhere, and then there's being abused at home.
There's that, I suppose, but it's not like they ever like acknowledge that that's a possibility. Like,
yeah, it's just like we'll never break up again.
It's like okay, cool. So you're putting friendship above what you think is the fate of the world.
Yeah, something that you're willing to do some pretty crazy shit for later.
Yeah.
And it's also she, like, they were together at Beacon for, what, maybe a couple months? And then they were apart for 2 years. Like, they act like they're these, like, destiny, we've had such a strong bond and done so much together. But they've spent way more time apart than together in this show.
Yeah, I mean
Technically.
it's hard to tell how long they were at Beacon before the fall of Beacon
Yeah.
because the timeline's very murky. But they never get out of first year, so it was less than a year,
Yeah,
whatever
it
it
was
was.
definitely less than a year. I want to say half a year at most.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Because they, like,
but
never
no,
hit winter or whatever.
they're the best of friends. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it's friendship. So now that we're back in Argus, we've caught up with JNR, which
Yeah.
means
They're at John's sister's house, and it's
yeah,
kind of nice because John's sister has a wife, so it's like, oh hey, they're actually like letting gay people exist in RWBY,
yeah, that's nice.
and yeah,
I mean, yeah, that was
they're
positive.
not major characters or anything, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, that's a positive thing. On the other hand, Jorn is back.
Yeah. So John, if you don't watch RWBY, John is the main character of RWBY, and it's very strange because you'd think that Ruby would be the main character of RWBY, but John always he gets all these character moments and all this screen time, and his entire shtick is that he sucks at fighting and he sucks at being a leader, and he sucks. But no, he's actually a decent leader though. He's learning. Nah, just kidding. He sucks. LOL. And his character is just that over and over and over. And
Yeah,
but everyone
but
loves him. Everyone assures him he's very important.
he's essentially, and the funny thing is, he's voiced by Miles Luna.
Yes, so he's
So
voiced by one of the two head writers.
yeah, he is. Like I don't know if he was actually intended to be this way, but he has all the characteristics of a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
Or
he's
Marty
very
Stu.
much we always call him like an isekai protagonist, like because he's this character that he is introduced in volume 1. He doesn't know anything about the world he's in.
Yeah,
All the girls for some reason are like attracted to him, like actually magnetically by the universe. It's like Weiss is walking, it's like, oh, it's John, and then Pierre is walking, he's like, oh, it's John, and he's so important for no reason.
yeah. There is no justification in the show for him being at Beacon, staying at Beacon,
Yeah,
anyone
he
giving a shit
cheated
about
to
him.
get in,
He-
and he
we
doesn't
don't- we-
know anything about being a hunter or how to do anything.
And he's not trying hard either. Like he's not making an effort to be a better hunter.
Yeah,
Like you see him
like
falling asleep in class all the time and shit. Like he's and
it's just the
look,
fucking worst.
he's just a shitty like he's a shitty male character who takes all of this screen time away from ostensibly the leads. And then in season 3, one of the female characters gets fridged for him. Like
Yeah, like
Like,
there's this hyper competent girl named Pyrrha that's on his team, but he's the leader because this is whatever. And so she dies to like make him really sad. And then in volume 4, it turns out he's been carrying around her armor from either her corpse or a spare set that he got somehow, depending on who you're listening to. And he melts it down to upgrade his armor, and it's presented as this like very sweet, like, oh, he wants to carry her memory with him. But he spent the entire time that they knew each other basically like treating her like shit, nagging her, like ignoring her feelings while going after Weiss and never taking no for an answer.
Like,
And then
he-
they kissed once right before she died.
yeah, at one point she confesses to him that she loves him, and she walks away. And then, rather than chase her and follow that up, he turns around to this other dude who just walked in and told him off for not dating Weiss, who's the girl he wants to date.
Yeah. He's
Like,
like, I'm a
just-
better person than you because you said no to a girl. You can't say no to girls. They're very sensitive and fragile.
Yeah, he's just, yeah. It's
So bad.
He had no right to that armor. He had it, and then see in this I don't know if it's in this episode, but in this season, while they're they're wandering around this town at one point, and it turns out this is where Pyrrha's from, and they put up a statue to her.
conveniently.
They put up a statue to her, and she sees the statue, and he has this sad moment looking at the statue, and then the other two members of the team, who are also Pyrrha's friends, turn
Yeah.
up, and they comfort Jorn.
They're
about-
immediately like, John, you can't keep doing this. And, like, they're not even surprised to see the statue of their friend, really. Like, they're a little surprised. But then they're like, oh, we're just really worried about you, John, and what
Yeah.
all this means to you because
And
your
what you-
Pyrrha died.
And what you lost when Pyrrha died, because it was your loss, this other person dying.
Yeah.
Not like our friend dying. It was your loss. Like, it's fucking just, ugh.
And Pyrrha's mysterious ghost mom shows up. Like, she appears like Batman out of nowhere, and then assures John that Pyrrha, it's okay that she died because she did what she wanted and she had the best friends clearly at school. And is like, and you did nothing wrong, John. And then she disappears into the night before the other two show up because who cares?
It is worth remembering that John is, like, in a small way, partly responsible for Pyrrha's death.
Yeah.
Because Pyrrha went off to fight Cinder, who at this point was superpowered and way outmatched Pyrrha.
Yeah, like Pyrrha kind of knew she was going to die theoretically.
Yeah, but she told John, go and get help. Like, go and get one of some of the Atlas soldiers or someone. I'm going to try and hold her up.
I mean, I guess she did shove him into a locker after that, so maybe he couldn't get out because he sucks.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. But he, like, rather than, like, he doesn't try to stop her. And then when he does go to get help, he tells one person. He tells RWBY, who's a fucking student.
Yeah?
Like, that's the only person he tells.
14-year-old.
Fucking yeah. So he's partly responsible. He is partly responsible for her death as well.
Oh, and don't forget, like, the Cinder was able to attack because they were like, stand guard, John, and then he wasn't looking and he wasn't standing guard.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
she was able to sneak attack them.
Yeah, but Cinder only ever got the rest of the maiden powers, which Pyrrha was meant to get, which would have put them on equal footing. While Pyrrha was in this vulnerable position, stuck in this, like, coffin thing, John just had to keep an eye on the door. And what does he do? He turns his back to the door, and Cinder walks in and has all the time in the world to line up a shot and kill someone. So, yeah.
He's just the fucking worst. And again, it's like the show keeps acknowledging that he's the worst, but then it keeps making us want to care about him and sympathize with him. And it's like, but he's such an asshole!
After season 4... it was like they started to try and get in on the joke, because they were aware that, like, even amongst RWBY fans, I mean, it's mixed, but there are people who were like, no, John sucks. John's lame. We don't
I would
like
say
John.
the majority of RWBY fans do not like John.
I mean, I've seen RWBY fans stan him, but, like, only the people who tend to be the people who are kind of like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's sort of like, since everyone sort of acknowledged that he kind of sucks, it's like they've started to try and get in on the joke and deliberately make him suck. And it's like, no.
They've kind of played with that the entire time.
Yeah, sort of. But
it's like, remember in Volume 3 when it's like, we also have team attack names, and then it's like, no, we don't. You suck. You're
I mean, yeah, that's true. But like you say, they're going back and forth. Where, like,
yeah, they keep having these moments of like, yeah, he was able to defeat the Grimm by himself, and it's like, no, he got hit in the balls.
Yeah, or no, he's a good tactician and a good leader. No, his ideas suck. Let's just listen to RWBY.
Yeah,
but no, he is.
And then his ideas are like, attack with everything you have.
Yeah, there's not. Well, no one ever has an idea that's more complicated than that. Like, there's no actual clever, like, strategy in any of the fights.
No, because then you have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's
more
the
writer.
Yeah, but yeah, they do tend to do this thing where they go back and forth on him, and it's.
Yeah, so they have like this big sad moment with him in front of Pyrrha's statue, and it plays a song where it's like, some people fall in love for life, and it's just so annoying because like because they kissed once, it's like they were married forever, and it's not like he just treated her like shit most of the time they were together.
It's just such a textbook fridging.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
Fridging has been an established trope, like, as a thing you should not do for a long time now. And they're still just doing it. They don't care. Like, they still think that this is compelling, that, like, this girl died, and that gives him some depth. And it really doesn't. Like, it just...
No, it just makes him more frustrating and more of an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, and the reason that they were all separated is because they get back and they explain episode 3 to Team JNR, and everyone's all upset about it. And John ends up being an asshole to Oscar, who's a blameless boy.
Well, he punches... He punches this, like, 13-year-old, who
now he like hits him against a wall.
Doesn't he punch him?
Crow was the one who punched him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Crow punched him, but no one
Everyone's bullying my boy.
This is the thing. Okay, so this is the thing. We haven't really talked about Oscar that much. Oscar is this utterly tragic figure. Like, he's an 11-year-old kid whose body has been has been subsumed, but to the purpose of this arsehole, who... Now that Ozpin has just retreated and isn't talking to anyone anymore, the rest of the characters half the time treat Oscar like he's got to answer for everything that Ozpin's done.
Yeah, like John is like, you're tricking me, and Crow punches him, and it's like, it's his body. He's a little boy.
He's a young boy who is here of no fault of his own, and you were bashing
Sweet
him
boy.
because like he doesn't deserve any of this. He has done
He didn't
absolutely
choose
nothing
this.
wrong.
He didn't
No,
choose shit.
no.
And
He's
he's
just
just
here
supposed
answering.
to, handle everything now. And maybe Ozpin is going to take his entire brain over at some point.
Yeah, like the characters should know this. They should understand how that works.
I mean, I could understand them being like irrationally mad, but then so it's like, okay, so John got irrationally mad, and that was bad. But then as soon as they meet back up, Oscar's immediately like, "I forgive you. It wasn't your fault. This is all very confusing."
Yeah. But it's also, of course, no, don't worry, John. Not your fault. Again,
Yeah.
never your fault.
And it turns, because like Oscar runs away after they have that big fight, and it's like, oh no, where'd Oscar go? What's gonna happen to Oscar? And it turns out he accepted death off screen and went to buy new clothes that suck. And so that's like the big reveal of like, oh, it's fine. He's back. He bought new clothes, and he's like, it's fine. I realize I'm not going to be here much longer, because my brain's going to be taken over by an evil man. So I figured I'll just do my best in the meantime. And it's like, God damn it, Oscar.
That is such a huge. Okay, so there's two things, right? That is such a huge character moment to have off screen, but
Yes.
also what was established in the Jin thing is that they live side by side. So this is this thing where they sort of go back and forth depending on what they want to do.
Yeah, because
Like,
in Volume 5, they heavily imply that he will take Oscar over at some point. And
Yeah,
then as of Episode 3, we're like, oh, thank God, it's not going to happen. And then Oscar's like, I don't know how much longer that I'll continue to exist. And then we're like, wait, what?
No. You guys undid this. It's okay. But it all just comes down to, like, in episode 3, they wanted us to be on Ozma's side, so he doesn't take over the brains of people. But in this
Yeah.
episode, they wanted to give Oscar a dramatic scene, so they act like he's dying.
God, and it's like, during the time we should have seen Oscar have this revelation for some reason. We're with John, seeing John be still sad about Pyrrha and getting over it, I guess.
This is the episode that establishes Oscar's character, and we just get to see Jean being sad again.
Oh, but in the meantime, Maria is being Yoda with RWBY.
Oh, yeah. This is the other incredibly frustrating thing about RWBY. I think we said this before, but, like, they cannot bring themselves, every time they have to introduce some new bit of lore or element, they just have to introduce a new fucking character when the cast is already so bloated. Like, and I'm not even just talking about the main team, which is already bloated. There are so many other auxiliary villains and other people wandering around that will spend a whole, like, 1 or 2 seasons with nothing to do.
Yeah, like, again, like, Salem's entire team, except for Cinder, who's, like, separated from them right now, doesn't do anything this season.
Nothing.
They spend this season just chilling out at home, so Team RWBY's like, we've really got to rush, we've really got to get there, we have to do whatever it takes. And Salem's team is like, whoop, boop, 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 doo, 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 doo.
Like, Salem's team sort of casually just go to Atlas. We're going to
At
Atlas.
the very end.
Yeah. Oh, no,
RWBY's team is so
not,
convinced they're going nuts.
wasn't that early? It wasn't like halfway through the season? Like, there's that scene with Watts and
The
there's a scene
teabagging scene is in episode 9.
Oh, okay, all right. We'll get to the teabagging. Yeah, it's so they introduced, so like it's already established at the end of season 3 the Crow knows about Silver Eyes.
Yeah, he's like, Silver Eyes are these warriors that are legendary, but he's very vague about it because they haven't figured out what they want to do with it yet, or why people have Silver Eyes. So it's just like, they're super good and beat Grimm super bad.
So that's one character who knows about Silver Eyes. Ozpin, obviously, knows about Silver Eyes because he recognised that RWBY had them and wanted to keep her around. So that's 2 characters already on the team that know about Silver Eyes. But no, let's introduce this stupid, annoying old woman who's going to be the one who teaches RWBY about Silver Eyes. Like, she does not need to be here.
She's supposed to be sassy, but she ends up just being a fucking bitch.
She's just an asshole. Like,
she's a huge asshole.
Yeah, and she just
like, but I said stop yelling!
She does not need to be there at all.
Yeah.
Like, this function could have been filled by someone else, but either one of those other 2 people on the team. But no, we're going to have this new person who's going to have a long, boring, pseudo-philosophical conversation about how you got to think about positive
Yeah,
things and what is
'cause
life and
she can tell Ruby what she needs to do to use the eyes, but Maria didn't know where the eyes came from either.
no.
And so she figures it out because she's like, remember during episode 3, were you paying attention?
Oh, yeah.
And the silver, with the god of creation, when he made the Grimm go away, and Ruby's like, his eyes! And it shows the moment when, like, the god of light made some Grimm disappear, and his entire body glows white, and it, like, goes whoosh, and the Grimm
Yeah.
all disappear. And
A
then
big sphere
Ruby's
pops
like,
up
his
out of him.
eyes!
It wasn't his eyes. You didn't see his eyes.
There
the
was
silver
nothing
eyes
about
had
his eyes that glowed.
the silver eyes, when we saw them happen, had a very specific effect that came out of Ruby's eyes.
Yeah.
And they did
His
not
eyes
replicate
aren't
that
even
on the
glowing, they're just like kind of milky pink.
Yeah.
They aren't silver. They don't glow and make the Grimm go away, but it's so weird for the characters to show us that not happening and then say that it happened.
It's great because it's like it was like the show was meant to be going. Oh, did you guys see the little hint we left back in episode 3? It's like, no, you didn't leave it there. You didn't do
and it's
that.
like, and if you should have realized that you didn't do that, like maybe you forgot, and then maybe just don't show it. And like most of the people are paying little enough attention that they'll assume it was in that episode. But instead, they made sure they insisted on showing us that it definitely didn't happen, and they're lying.
It's just baffling.
So yeah, her eyes are from the god of creation.
You're showing us that you failed to show us something.
Yeah, it's super good. And it's supposed to be like, but you so she says the eyes, you shouldn't think of them as destruction. Your eyes destroy Grimm as a means of preservation, which is an extension of creation. They're creation god powers.
Yeah, I love that they're still trying to make that work when you already blew it all up in episode 3.
Yeah,
Just,
and so
guys,
it's presented as like it's a good thing because it's the god of creation's powers. It's like, you really don't think he's a fucking asshole, do you?
Yeah,
You
he's
think
worse.
that he was in the right.
He's actually he is sort of worse than the God of Destruction.
Yeah, the god of destruction you at least kind of understand. He's like, look, whatever, I'm going to do what I want. I'll kill humans if I want, but I also gave you magic because I thought that'd be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. He's at the minimum is honest the entire time. Whereas the god of creation straight up lies. Like,
yeah, and he's a fucking prick.
Yeah. Anyway, so they Oscar's back. Ruby's learned a little bit about Silver Eyes, and they decide, okay, it's episode 9. We need to kick this season into motion. Jorn's got an idea of how to get to Atlas. And his idea is we need to go to Atlas and ask them for a favor, right? We need to get them to protect this relic.
Yeah.
We need their help.
Help us, Atlas. How will we get their help?
Let's steal one of their attack ships and fly in there after committing, some damage and theft. And they'll definitely help us out then.
Yeah, let's steal from the military. That's a normal thing.
Let's attack the military and steal from them, and then they'll help us out when we get there.
And to everyone else's credit, they're all like, that sounds fucking stupid.
Yeah, Weiss says that
Crow
sounds
is
dumb.
like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. And then Ruby's like, fuck you, uncle.
Fuck you, old man.
Oh, yeah, fuck you, old man. Like, youth culture for life. Since you said we can't do it, we're going to do it, and it's going to be the best, and I love it. I love the idea now.
Yeah.
Let's steal from the military. Let's start a war. More crimes.
Doesn't Crow actually say, why are you in such a hurry?
No, that was in my comic.
Oh,
he's like just very like, look, like this isn't something that you can just, if it goes wrong, you can just be like, whatever. This is stealing from the military. Like, that's incredibly stupid. You shouldn't do that. Which is like, yeah. That's super reasonable. It's not like he was just like, no, I'm a negative Nelly and I don't want to do a good.
But that's how the show's treating it. The show's treating it like, this is just Crow being negative because he's been negative since episode 3. Like, that's how you're meant to feel about it. But no. Once again, you have given the character you think is wrong the reasonable statement, which you keep doing.
Ruby makes it about kids versus adults, which is really weird because most of Team RWBY, except for her and Oscar, are of age now. They're like 19.
Yeah.
And she's like, so maybe, since the adults haven't, whatever, you should trust us kids for once. And it's like, what? He didn't say you couldn't steal from the military because you're children. He said you shouldn't steal from the fucking military. Because it's the military.
Because it's a bad idea, and yeah.
The military that you think is so powerful that it can protect you from from Salem, that military.
This show does this with its dialogue a lot, where it's just nonsense. Like it's just it'll throw in like a statement or a little theme into a conversation that it thinks is cool, but it's totally disconnected from whatever we were just talking
it's
about.
things that they think sound like anime dialogue, but
Yeah,
without
yeah.
anything to like connect it or make it make sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because the show really doesn't have anything thematic going on.
Yeah,
It's just a bunch of nonsense. It was just a bunch of nonsense connecting fight scenes until we just started forgetting about the fight scenes.
Yeah.
So now it's just
But
nonsense.
to be fair, the
connecting
season
nonsense.
did have more. Of course, there wasn't a fight scene with the Dementors, unfortunately.
No, that was
But look. What's important is that we got to talk about the teabagging scene.
Oh yeah, okay. So just really briefly, for the first time, I think the first time this season, we see Salem again.
No, Salem told him about Cinder being alive earlier.
Oh yeah,
Like all the bad guys except for Cinder come back to base, and they're like, "Man, we did a real bad job last season." And so they're all just kind of like hanging out at base, being like, "Man, this sucks." And Cinder had these two lackeys who are like other, super teens that don't know what to do with themselves now. And so they have an argument, and then who shows up?
Tyrion, Scorpion creeper guy,
the creepy Scorpion man. And so his way
the guy
of
who
being
makes every
creepy
scene worse.
is that he knocks Mercury down, and he spends the next 3 minutes teabagging him while they have a conversation.
It's this fairly pointless conversation where Tyrion just sort of calls them dumb kids and explains how they're going off.
All he's saying is that they're going to Atlas, but he
Yeah.
manages to make it this 3 minute super creepy kind of sexual conversation.
Yeah, and the entire time he's doing it, he's crouching with his balls over Mercury's mouth.
Yeah.
It seems like the animators forgot that's where he was.
Because it just keeps going, and they just keep talking, and it's like, please stand up. I cannot listen to what you're saying. Stop teabagging him. Oh, God.
I mean, it is a power move, to be fair, I suppose. But
Yes. And it's great because right before he does that, Mercury says, "You don't know me," and tries to punch him, and then Tyrion's like, "Nah, I'm teabagging you." And so you find out that they're going to Atlas for some reason that we'll find out next season, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's all we really see from the bad guys.
So it's good to know before the rush to Atlas even starts that the rush to get to Atlas was pointless because the bad guys are already there.
And it's exactly what, we didn't need to see that because we would have guessed, so they went to the other two bases and fucked them up, so obviously that's going to be their plan to do that in Atlas. You would assume that. And then they show you, of course, that's exactly what they're doing. And then the character's we gotta fucking get to Atlas!
It's it's so fucking dumb because at least in Season 4, for all of the flaws Season 4 had, the RWBY walking to get to Haven was oh, okay, well, now that we're in Haven, maybe we can actually stop what's about to happen. And then the last scene in Haven, you find out that Haven is already... The last scene in that season, you find out Haven is already compromised.
Yeah.
So it's oh, okay. So it undercuts what happened that season. We aren't safe, that's the cliffhanger. In this season, not only are they repeating the same plot point, they undercut it before we even get to the climactic thing, so there's no stakes anymore.
Yeah, we know that they're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, we know from the start they're doing the wrong thing. So we don't care whether or not they succeed because we know they're already fucked.
And they're going to do some extreme... they want to steal from the military to do something that's not going to help.
No, they do something. They make it a lot worse. So,
God.
So
the plan.
The plan.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it starts off with Weiss turning up on her own with a suitcase, saying, "I'm going to
go back to my dad. It's fine.
Yeah.
This is normal."
She gets on a ship. She opens the suitcase and Maria pops out.
She's a small lady, and she can pilot the ship.
Apparently. Oh, but she says, "I think I can," and flies it badly, and they go, "Wasn't this funny?" Meanwhile,
so they have to knock out the two guards that are on the ship, and it's so funny because it makes slashing sound effects off screen, and so it's oh, Weiss fucking killed them. but then it shows them, and they're tied up, and they're being dropped in a parachute, presumably into the ocean.
Yeah.
So those guys are dead.
yeah, they're tied up and being dunked, and they're dead. I mean, we see them later; they're fine, but whatever. And they were like cartoons, to be fair.
Yeah, they're unkillable, I guess, by cartoon logic.
So the way this plan works is that they're going to steal a ship that has their correct identity codes to get into Atlas. But in order to get out, they have to disable this communications tower so that...
Because otherwise they'll know that they... Oh no, it's because they have to swing back around to pick everybody up. That's the only reason they have to do the tower thing.
They have to come back, grab everyone else, and then leave. So they have to and they're picking them up from this place where if they just disable this one tower, Atlas... I guess the people monitoring at the base won't care that one of their towers went down.
Yeah, they won't be like, that's fucking suspicious.
Yeah, and also one of our ships is missing.
I mean, I guess theoretically by the time they found out, they hope that they'll just be on their way to Atlas.
Yeah, but
still, it's also this entire problem could have been avoided if they just picked them up a little further away.
Yeah.
Outside of the radio tower range thing, which isn't very far as established by previous scenes.
It's not that far out. So, Jorn's sister's wife works for the communications people, so she's going to help them deliberately disable, damage this radio tower. So, that seems like something that's pretty risky for her to do, but whatever.
Yeah, and Blake is going to do it because she's the stealthy one. Yeah,
she's going to do it by herself. And it also has to go wrong when Blake turns up and all of the workers there are dead.
Why are they dead, though?
Because Adam's there! Yay! It's Adam!
Adam's here. Remember Adam? He came back.
He's back.
He just wouldn't stay away.
He somehow knew where Blake was going to be. Mm-hmm. He got there early, killed everyone, which is the thing, to be fair, as established at the beginning of the season, is the thing he likes to do now.
I guess the guards might have just been knocked out. We don't see blood.
They seem pretty slumpy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it would make no sense for him to non-lethal people, but, you never know.
Yeah. So he's here to... I guess he wants to kill Blake?
Yeah, he's like, Blake, finally, we're alone. And it's so weird because, the way that it's shot, even the people, again, who were, excited by him showing back up were like, that was random, but okay. Because, again, he hasn't been mentioned for most of the season, and you just, see him down in a corner like a cockroach. And he's just, suddenly there, and he's like, I missed you, Blake, or whatever, finally we can be alone. And it's like, what? What are you doing here?
Obviously the plan was going to be blown up in some way, but why him? Why was it him?
Yeah.
Why?
It's just hey, I'm a loose plot thread and I'm hanging here.
Yeah, if Cinder and Neo had turned up here.
Yes, that would have made sense.
Because their stated goal was stop RWBY getting to Atlas. That was the goal.
Yes. Anything would have made more sense than him.
But no, the guy who has had no connection to this part of the plot has no reason to know where they are. He wouldn't even know that they were in Argus, let alone...
I mean, I guess theoretically he has Little Miss, and Little Miss has all information, is the implication. But it's still, he's been stalking them, apparently, this entire time, and he somehow caught up with them after he, went back to his base and killed everybody and hung out for a while being sad, and then he...
And got ahead of them.
It's only been, a couple weeks.
Yeah. Anyway... So he's there to kill Blake.
He's here now.
Incredibly frustrating, again, in that sort of thing of, let's have some anime dialogue. Are you just going to keep running away forever? And it's like, motherfucker, that was what you did at the end of the last season.
Yeah, he's like, can't you do anything but run away? That plot point has resolved, goddammit.
Yeah, fucking...
But, it's just this RWBY thing of, let's just go back, because we don't know what to do once their character arc is resolved, so let's just unresolve it and keep going. So it's no, Blake runs away. That's her thing. And it's really funny because at first he's like, how could you ruined everything in my life, Blake, which is really funny. But then she's like, you need to give this up, Adam, for your own sake. And it's you shouldn't be having this conversation with him. He's like a mass murderer. You just should be killing him.
You shouldn't be worried about his well-being. You shouldn't be trying to...
don't worry about his mental health.
Don't help him help himself. Kill him.
Yes.
He's been trying to kill you for 3 seasons now. He's an awful person. He's not redeemable.
I know you were dating while you were a teenager and he was an adult and you had a creepy child grooming relationship, but it's over now and it's time for him to die.
Yeah, and it just the idea that he's being presented as sympathetic at all is just so absurd.
Weird. But
it's again this thing of they don't know the elements they've got. They don't really think about the sort of person they've actually portrayed, really.
So he's fighting Blake, but then what's Team RWBY doing in the meantime? Oh shit, they're on radar. They know that they stole their airship, so they're going to send some ships out after them, right?
Well,
What? Why? What happens?
well, sending a few more ships would make sense.
Yeah.
But nah, this is RWBY, so the mountain moves, and out steps a giant fucking mecha.
Wow, mecha are really cool. I like mecha. I love Gurren Lagann.
Is it a cool mecha? No. It's this big... Like, considering they were making Genlock at the same time...
Yeah, that had some mecha designs.
Yeah, the mecha designs are actually kind of cool. And this is the lamest, weirdest looking, like, just big four legs, sort of... Like, it's got two big stumpy legs and two big stumpy arms, and it just sort of waddles about in this really boring, slow way.
Yeah, it's incredibly simplified. But it's big and slow, but it's able to keep up with this airship by, like, running after it in the shallow water. And it's like, I'm gonna come get ya!
Its strengths and weaknesses and everything are entirely inconsistent. And for some reason... While Cordova's really... Like, Cordova and Maria apparently have this history, and Cordova's really pissed that Maria stole this ship. So as she's getting out in the robot...
But not in a, like, you're committing a war crime way. It's like, oh, you sassy woman, you...
You're cheeky. You sassy old lady, you stole a ship,
your shenanigans.
Yeah. But the weird thing is that she decides to take this out on Argus while she's, like, getting the robot up and running and walking away. She yells at the town... for like this weird fascist speech about this is why you need me and us.
Oh yeah, we'll show you the mighty power of Atlas.
Yes.
People don't know what's happening. And again, when people are freaked out, it's established that when you feel negative emotions, Grimm show up. So the Team RWBY has stolen from the military. They're sending out this giant bot to fight them. But there's no Grimm around. There's some kind of, like, it looks like there's some kind of intermilitary conflict going on. And, that might freak people out a little bit.
Yeah. You'd be worried about upsetting people. Like, this seems like a dangerous thing to do, as Crow said. Like,
yes, and again, there's no good reason for them to be rushing this much. We know that because of both logic and what we saw Salem doing.
Yeah. Like, maybe they don't know the Salem bit, but we first of all we know.
Probably going to Atlas.
Yeah,
it's the most obvious thing for them to be doing.
Yes, yeah, because this is what they've done all the other seasons. So even without them knowing specifically that, it still makes no sense. There's absolutely no justification for them rushing the way they do.
Yeah, and so it turns out. They have to fight a mech.
They have to fight a mech. So the mech has hard light dust.
Yeah, she says Atlas is the leader in hard light dust. Whatever that is.
So it has a shield. It has a shield. So they're saying, well, how do we defeat this mech? And then RWBY says, in video games...
There's a weak point on the back. And then Weiss is like, that's fucking stupid. But of course, when someone says something stupid, you know that it's true. So there's a big hatch on the back that says shield generator, and they shoot it to deplete its HP.
The shield generator is behind a hatch they can pull off with their hands on the back of this huge, super armored mech.
And it has a big, convenient label, and then the meter go boom. We go down.
The meters go down. We see meters on her HUD go down.
It's very cool.
This could have been cool, but the rules for the mech are inconsistent, so sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow.
Yeah, it can catch a missile, but then theoretically it's also this big, slow thing.
Yeah. And secondly... Now, you're a fan of butt rock.
I do like the butt rock in RWBY, or I have in the past.
Yeah, I'm not it's not as much my thing, but I think we can both agree the song for this fight scene was probably the worst bit of butt rock they've done so far.
It's a bad butt rock.
Yeah.
Jeff likes to scream sing, but he's not a professional scream singer. So, like, the characters are moving really slowly, and it's like, because they didn't really have a good idea of how to make these very fast characters fight this very slow mech. So instead, everyone just kind of moves in slow motion. And meanwhile, Jeff is like, and it's just like, oh no.
It's funny because it's not a great song to begin with. Casey's doing her best singing the rest of the lyrics. But then, like, the chorus is like she'll sing something and then it's interrupted by... Like, it's just... It's awful.
It's really bad.
Like, it seems like as the show's been going on, Jeff, he's like been infected by RWBY fever where he just starts to think he's more competent than he is.
Yeah, because like, he's done the scream singing in other songs, and I swear it's not been this bad. Like, it's not super great, but like in Caffeine and stuff, it's like, it's still fun, but it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than this one. So it's a bad bit of butt rock, The fight sucks.
Yeah.
They had a plan that didn't work out. Then Ruby like jumps inside. Basically, the robot has
God.
a big drill on one arm and a big dust gun on the other because again, it's Atlas. They've got tons of dust.
Yeah.
And Ruby manages to jump inside the barrel of the gun.
It looks so bad.
It looks awful and blow it up. All of the effects in this fight are really bad. Like, 'cause for the first time, we see Ruby's semblance in slow motion, and it looks fucking awful in this fight.
Yeah, before this season, Ruby's semblance was that she twirls into her cape and goes super fast, and and petals flow behind her, and it's always been pretty cool. Like it's like, oh, she go fast like Sonic.
That's her power. She can go fast. I mean, there was that one time in season 2 where they forgot that she could do that.
Yeah, they forget that she can do it often, but when she uses it, it usually looks pretty cool and it feels fast. But this season, they decided that instead what she does is she becomes a big spirally flying Pac-Man. That's not very fast, but at least she can fly, I guess. And it's like it's not cel-shaded, like it's rendered like in full 3D with like black shadows, and it looks really goofy. And it's not part of her cape even anymore.
No, like when she comes out of it, it's like several petals sort of receding in like a twirl, but it just looks very basic. It looks like a really early test render.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't finish it. And I feel like these whole fights are very rushed looking, and I want to believe that it's Genlock because they were making 2 shows simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was that they had, from what we've been told, they were pulling people off RWBY to work on Genlock because, like, Genlock obviously was a more intensive show, and
yeah,
to be honest, like if I was managing RWBY, it would to me seem like it really doesn't matter how bad we make this; people still keep watching it for some reason. So, like,
yeah, I guess it's fine.
It really doesn't matter. Yeah, like we couldn't try to make this shittier, and people are still watching this fucking show. So, RWBY gets inside the gun and blows up the dust containers, which
she shoots the gun inside the gun, and it makes the gun go.
Yeah. All the dust goes off at once.
And it looks really good. Wait, but you forgot the part before that where she gives a speech to Cordova, and she like walks up to the mech and she's like, "You gave us no choice because you said no to us because we asked for something unreasonable, and this is your fault now because we had no option left but to steal from the military." And she's like, "I'm going to give you one more chance to give us what we want." And Cordova's like, "No." And then she's like, "All right, bitch." and then she does that thing.
It's just so unreasonable. It's so unreasonable what they're doing. It makes no sense.
So they fuck up the mech, and then simultaneously the Blake Adam fight is going on, and he's beating her now because the plot demands that he's stronger than her now again.
Yep.
And then so Yang shows up, and she hits him with her motorcycle. That's a good moment.
This motorcycle, which has been her main thing through the whole series, she just fucking yeets it into him.
Yeah, and it's just like bam, and he's just like fuck.
It flies off a cliff. Okay.
Yeah, it's like thank you, Bumblebee, you did it. And then so they fight together, and it's very gay.
She yeets the motorcycle into Adam, and stands in front of Blake, and Adam says, "Why are you protecting her?"
Oh, yeah, and she's like, "I'm not protecting her."
And she's not protecting me. And they hold hands, and they say, "We're protecting each other."
Oh, got him. Got him.
What? That line is lame, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like, so you are protecting her. Yeah, it's like, I'm not protecting her. I'm protecting her. And she's protecting me. It's like, well, okay. But so they hold hands and then they fight, and there's some decent fight animation that they take. So before Monty died, he started an animation of Yang versus Adam that was supposed to be in Volume 3, but they weren't able to finish it. They didn't have time to work on it, so Adam just beats her instantly in the actual episode. And
which was the worst, maybe the worst part of that episode, because that particular fight had ramifications for the rest of the season up to this point, where Yang was dealing with the loss of her arm and the PTSD and all that stuff. So that should have been a big fight in that episode, but no, it's over in 20 seconds.
Someone, I forget who leaked this. I feel like it has to be someone who worked at Rooster Teeth, because the fact that footage got leaked now, of all times, or at least I never saw it before then, that half-done Monty fight, because they use some of that fight animation in this fight with Yang versus Adam. And
Yeah,
so
some of
it's
the
really
ideas.
weird because it's cool looking and it looked cool when Monty was doing it, but it's kind of out of place because now Adam has this like different power that he hasn't had this whole time,
Yeah,
where he can
yeah.
like kind of teleport around and do ninja shit.
That's the first time we've ever seen him do that, and it does look cool. But
Yeah, it looks cool, but again, like it would have made more sense in Volume 3 before we'd like really seen him fight in the show.
yeah,
But here it's
yeah.
kind of strange, and it feels weird for them to be just like pulling Monty's stuff and like not really giving him credit for it. It feels like it's odd, and it feels
It is,
gross.
yeah. The show's relationship with Monty,
It's weird.
it is. It feels strange now because so much of the show feels like, on the one hand, that you suspect that they think they're doing an awesome job, but other parts of the show really does feel like they just don't give a shit.
But that's like it's a dead Perkinson's legacy also.
Yeah, yeah. This was Monty's big thing. This show,
Weird.
like,
And they like still keep selling it as like this is his baby. This is, created by Monty Oum. But then they make the bad things. And then it's like, don't, poor boy. But though Monty also had his own problems.
oh, of course.
And obviously volumes 1 and 2 like weren't well written even while he was there.
No, no. They had a better, like, at least like the focus was on the fights in those because there were lots of them.
Yeah. And then when the fights happened, they were cool because that was what he was good at.
Yeah, and the fact that he was bad at writing was like, well, okay, he's brand new at this. Of course he's bad. This is laughably bad, but it's not the point of the show, so that's okay.
He
He'll
just
get
wants
better.
to make the girls hit each other. And then they
Yeah.
do hit each other and it's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
They're fighting Adam. Yang's like, Blake, you take a load off, I'll fight him. And she's fighting him, then they fight him a bit together, and then Adam is using his big, powerful semblance on Yang, and Yang catches it with her robo arm. She catches his katana, and she's like, I may not be as fast as you, or something. I forget what she says, she's not as something as him. But she says, but I'm smarter. And then she punches him real hard, and then he's defeated. And it's like, that's not a smart thing to do.
No, it's not a smart thing to do to block the blade and then punch a guy in the face. That's not like outwitting.
And it's like, if she said, I'm stronger than you, it would have made sense both like metaphorically and physically. But it's almost like they were like, that's too obvious.
There's also a really funny scene. There's a moment in it when, like, you think that Blake has been kicked off a cliff, and he's talking to Yang, and like, but then you can see behind him, Blake is like creeping up the cliff in the background, but it's so far away that she looks like a little cockroach, just sort of.
And she's like Spider-Manning up it, like she has her like arms and legs all out to like ning, 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 ning.
It looks
yeah,
so fucking
it's very
stupid.
funny. Oh, it's also great because he cut her coat off. And they're
yeah.
like, this whole place is wintry and no one's dressed for winter yet because they have their, it's like a video game and they only have one character model. But so he like cuts her coat off, and so she's in this like little tank top in the middle of like all this cold, and it's never a problem or brought up.
Well, the cold uniform thing is like is actively stupid because in this episode when we see Yang and Cinder and Neo, they've changed their clothes to be something even more unsuited to the cold.
Yeah, she's like, you might need some snow boots once we get to Atlas. And it's like, you might need some pants. Like, what are you talking about?
Sleeves, maybe
Yes.
a hat.
God. But they do beat him, and then they kick him off a cliff.
They stab him off a cliff.
Yeah, oh yeah. There is a nice moment where they both take halves of Blake's sword and stab them into him from the front and the back. And he's like, oh. and it's real good. It's like, oh, that's a nice, like, oh. Like, that's a nice dying moment. But then he falls off a cliff, and we're like, is he really dead, though? Because we saw someone else fall really far off a cliff.
Yeah, but this is what happens when if you do that, if you have a character survive falling off a cliff, I cannot trust the death, especially if I do not see the body. And we don't see the body. Even though he was stabbed twice and, like, fell off a cliff, I just don't trust that they're not going to bring him back. I can't trust it.
And then they asked Carrie in a RWBY rewind if he's dead, and Carrie's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, good. And he's like, unless we decide to bring him back like some General Grievous thing. And it's like, no, you can't fucking...
Carrie, you should know. You should
Carrie-
know if he's coming back.
Carrie, don't tell me that.
This should not be up for debate, mate. You should know where your story's going.
Because, like, again, like, I much like Bumblebee being canon, at that point, if they word have got it, yes, he is dead, I would have accepted it. But the fact that you're like, oh, but we might decide he's not, I guess. It's like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah.
Oh, and Bumblebee, they like hug and cry super hard, and it's like, this feels kind of gay. I don't know.
Yeah, and then they sort of they've kind of word of God it's gay.
Yeah, because he's like,
Which good, thank you. Like you've actually like it was 3 seasons of baiting, and now you've actually like followed through on it. So good.
yeah, he says like, it's not fun if I just tell you, which like that's either yes or you're the world's biggest fucking asshole.
Yeah, if you say that and then you don't do it,
Yeah, you are a piece of shit.
that's maybe some of the worst baiting I've ever seen.
Yeah. So, but I want it for this little thing. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it's canon, and they don't just want to say it, which is fair enough. You know, I understand writing romance. You don't just want to be like, yeah, it's going to sail. So meanwhile, on the mecha fight,
Mecha fight. So they've ruined the mech.
the mecha's whole purpose is to fight Grimm,
Yeah.
like big Grimm that come from the sea sometimes.
If like an apocalypse Grim shows up,
Yeah, like a really big Grimm, maybe.
the mech is there. Yeah, is there to defend the city. And Ruby just ruined the Grim in her pointless rush to get to Atlas after she stole a ship.
Yeah, they ruined the only means of defense and freaked everybody out. So what's going to happen?
What happens?
Well, the shit ton of Grimm show up and a giant kaiju Grimm. Who could have foreseen this circumstance?
Yeah, who could have thought ahead and thought maybe this might be a consequence of what we do?
So fucking stupid. You gave us no choice. So a fuck ton of Grimm show up, like flying from the skies, big kaiju coming from the ocean, and they're like, oh, maybe we fucked this up a bit. and then Cordovan's like, this is your fault. This is your fault. And we're like, yeah, it is their fault. And I think we're supposed to be like, no, Cordovan, you evil fascist, it's not their fault. But it is, though.
This is 110% their fault.
And like Cordovan also did a stupid thing by bringing the mech out instead of sending fighter planes, but that doesn't forgive the thing Ruby did.
No, Ruby instigated all of this.
Yeah, so it's like she didn't handle it well, but it's still not like mostly her fault or anything.
Cordovan's response was over the top, but yeah, that was warranted based on what Ruby did, which was stealing a fucking ship.
Yeah, fucking war crimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're like, oh, I guess we have to deal with all these Grimm. So they're like, we'll take care of the kaiju.
Hang on. Oh. Which character, which fun old lady suggests, you know what, we could just fuck off and leave Argus to its fate.
Did she?
Yeah, she did. She said,
that's
look,
right.
She's like, well, look, just devil's advocate. We've got the ship now and they're distracted. We could just go.
That would have been fucking amazing.
Just truly cementing that Maria is an awful fucking character.
She's the worst.
It's just awful. Just a bad, she sucks. She's not fun.
She's supposed to be funny old lady. She's supposed to be Yoda, but she's just the fucking worst.
It's just a shitty old woman character. And yeah.
So they're like, no, we'll help solve this problem that we made. So how can we defeat the giant kaiju Grimm?
This is the finale episode. This should be a big, huge, fun fight.
Yeah, this should be like
There's tons of Grimm flying through the air. There's all the Atlas ships flying at them. You know, you got like fighter planes, big birds, and everyone else. And like in the previous scene, everyone was jumping around in the air off Weiss's things. There's potential for this to be a big, cool finale fight.
Yeah, you gotta fight a kaiju.
What happens?
Well, Ruby's like, I'm gonna use my silver eyes now that I know how to do it. And she's like, everybody let me do it. And so she goes in front of the kaiju's face on one of Weiss's bees that she can summon. And she's like thinking really hard. She's like, I gotta think about those happy thoughts. I mean life thoughts. It's not a Patronus. And then she's like, ooh, I'm thinking so hard. And so she's thinking about the good thoughts. But then, oh no, the bad thoughts come out. Like the time Pyrrha died when she used her powers the most effectively she's ever used them.
Yeah, remember that? Remember how last time when Pyrrha, that actually happened, it took the silver's eyes off? But this time, no, that's not how it works anymore.
Yeah, so she's like, oh, I can't do it. I'm just too sad. And then she's like, Jin! And Jin comes out and time freezes, and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to make it to freeze the time because I didn't know what to do. And Jin's like, that's cheating, but you know what? It was pretty clever. I gotta respect that, kid. You got some chops. And we're like, shut the fuck up.
This was the shittiest cop-out. Like, the solution to this problem with the big kaiju was already a cop-out, because the Silver Eyes are essentially a cop-out. They're a cop-out from having to fight or do anything clever as a solution to a problem. And they've gone out of their way. Like, they've had all these opportunities where they could have put some restrictions on it, but they haven't. And the only restriction they had was that Ruby needs to concentrate and think of happy thoughts. And she couldn't do it. So the idea that, like, okay, I'm going to call up the Jinn, which will freeze time and give me a second, but for that I'm going to have to sacrifice a question. the last question. I need to ask it now. I need to think of something I can ask. That would have been like an interesting sacrifice.
Yeah, even if she had to ask something dumb, and there's like a lot of obvious questions she could ask, like that might be on her mind, like where's my mom? Is she really dead? Or anything. But nah, Jin's like, okay.
What does Salem want? Do we actually need to kill Salem?
Or can I kill Salem, since she only said that Ozpin can't kill her, technically?
Yeah. Or like, or even just something really broad, like, is there a solution? And the Jinn says yes. Like, so that she has hope and she has something to believe in, which is meant to be her whole thing.
Yeah, in my mind, I really wanted it to be, I wanted her to say, how did my mom die? Because, like, that's something that she's always wondered about. And then Jin says, she's not dead. Bum, bum, bum. And that's all you need to know. Whoa.
That would have been cool. But instead they just let her get away with this.
Yeah, she doesn't need to ask anything. And then she's like, okay, now that I have a breather, I can think of happy thoughts. Oh, and by the way, all the flashbacks, because the older seasons were in Poser and the newer seasons were in Maya, and they don't look at all alike, they like traced over all the flashbacks, but they look like really bad, like flash art. And so it's really funny seeing all these happy memories in this like goofy drawn over style. Oh, and one of her memories is her mom, like turning around and you finally see her mom and her design sucks, and it's just like kind of the same as RWBY, but
it's just an older RWBY.
And all the same color. Like, it's even like she has the same, like, clavicle top with the detached sleeves, and it's like, come on.
Guys, come on.
And then, so she's like, I thought enough good thoughts now, and then it starts playing, like, and the light power is mine, or something. It's like some very, like, early English Sailor Moon insert song. and then she, like, does a big blah, and it makes the Grimm be kind of stone for a few seconds.
Yeah, so all the little Grimm die, and the big Grimm is... Yeah, they do, because there was all those flocks of little Grimm. And
I thought that the military was still dealing with them. That's a big range, then.
I could be wrong as well, but I think it wipes out all the little Grimm.
Okay, and then the big Grimm, he's stone, but then he immediately starts breaking out of it, so good job, RWBY. And then Cordovan shows up, and she's like, I get to have the big, cool final moment, Giga Drill Breaker, and she uses the drill that you haven't seen until now to do a Gurren Lagann on the kaiju and beats it instantly. And it's like, this is the racist fascist lady. I don't need her to have, like, a big, cool moment where she befriends our heroes.
Yeah, and also, this was your big finale.
Yeah, and it's just, RWBY uses her eyes.
One shot from a drill, and that's it.
Yeah,
that was it.
And then Cordovan's like, you know what? I forgive you now because I saved the day, but I guess you froze the Grimm for a few seconds. So I'm going to let you steal that military airship, and I'm sure nobody will mind, and we're cool. And so, see ya.
Why does she forgive them? Why?
It's so fucking
no
stupid.
Reason.
It's war crimes.
It's like they caused this whole problem. They almost got all of Argus destroyed.
Yeah, and Cordova knew it was their fault until she used her silver eyes real quick, and then she's like, never mind, I decided it's not your fault, we're cool.
And if they hadn't shown up, and the kaiju had, she would have been fully equipped to deal with the problem. Like, it's just so stupid.
It's so bad.
It's just so stupid. And at no point does anyone say you guys did the wrong thing. Like, it's not acknowledged that was a fuck up.
No, yeah, and it's all treated like they got up to a few shenanigans, but their heart was in the right place, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they all have like a breather moment on the airship where everybody's back together, and I guess Blake and Yang kind of off-screen tell RWBY about all the Atom shit, which is like, it would have been great if RWBY was like, who? Who was that again? But she's like, oh man, that sounds like a real big thing you guys went through. It's interesting that there's this guy I've never seen.
It would be funny if RWBY and Weiss just didn't believe that Atom was real.
Yeah, why would they? It's like, you two can just kiss, you don't need an excuse for why you keep running off together. It's fine. We're not homophobic.
We might be. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I'm racist, but I'm not a homophobe, maybe.
Yeah, like Weiss is established as racist, so,
No, she's over it because she has a black friend now, a Blake friend.
Oh, that's right.
So they have their breather moment, and then Crow thinks about taking a drink, but then he doesn't, because he's learned his lesson to always believe in RWBY because everything worked out so well. And so I guess alcoholism over now.
That's about as much effort. That's actually probably more effort than the PTSD getting over got, to be fair.
That was a different season, but her dad gave her shit about it, and then she got over it.
Yeah,
Until
yeah.
this season, where she decided she's not over it, actually, and so they had to hold hands, and now they're over it.
Yeah, now she's killed Adam, so she's over it. We briefly see Atlas, where it's like
It's a floating chunk of rock, and it's stupid.
every time they get to a new location, a new city, they do this. They do the same scene where someone goes, "I never get tired of this view,"
Oh yeah, I was like, oh, it's amazing.
and it's always a bit less impressive than they intend. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like a matte concept painting.
yeah, there's a big floating city, and there's the shitty industrial city where all the poor people live downstairs.
Yeah, and it's like it's a big city on this like giant chunk of rock. It's very Final Fantasy, but it's like held down by a chain to the ground, or I guess like some cables.
It's Alita. It's exactly what's in Alita. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
makes
the
sense.
big floating city above and the shitty industrial city down below that makes all the stuff for the big city.
Yeah, it's just so like inconvenient. Like when you just like cut the cord. I want that to be Salem's plan. I want them to just cut that cord, and then Atlas goes flying off into space, and they're like, "Fuck, our privilege."
That would be so funny.
It'd
It
be
just
the
floats
best.
away like
Do
a balloon.
it. Do it, you cowards. Wait, but it wouldn't work because once they get near space, the dust would stop working because dust doesn't work in space. That was in a world of
Yeah.
remnants. That's why they don't have space travel.
Because they need to establish why they're still on the one planet.
Why they don't know why they have a shitty shattered moon.
God,
So that was RWBY Volume 6.
that was RWBY Volume 6. It really it's we've been talking for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
It really is so hard to summarize.
Like, again, like, all they did was get most of the way to Atlas this season in terms of, like, physical progression.
In terms of the actual plot, nothing changed from start to finish apart from we're going to get to Atlas, we got to Atlas.
And now there's a lot of things we don't, like, understand how they factor into what's happening, and the characters don't let it factor into what's happening yet.
Yeah.
So it's like...
That's the bit that blows my mind. Is like all this stuff you learned should have changed what you were doing, but you
Yeah.
stubbornly did not let that change.
Yeah, it's... So, is it savable at all? I think no now.
No, I think it's done. I think it's like because it's a fun thought experiment. Like after each season of RWBY, to sort of go, okay, how could you right the ship from this point?
Yeah, how could we bring things back on track? It's like, one of the problems is we have 10 people in the party now. And, like, it's very hard to find an excuse for any of them to leave because they're all convinced that they're on this, like, big, important world-saving mission. That, like, so it's like, are we just going to have to run around with 10 people from now on?
And it's like the show keeps telling us they all have to be here together because it's all about friendship and shit. But like most of them don't get anything to do really in terms of what actually happens during the season. Like
Yeah, like, until Adam showed up, Blake spent most of this season just standing in the back not saying anything.
yeah, same as Yang, really. Same as Weiss. John, Nora, and Ren had absolutely nothing to do this season. Like, obviously, we didn't even need to see them for half of it.
Yeah.
They don't have any ongoing plot threads. This next season in Atlas, obviously, Weiss is gonna, you would assume, have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Ruby's obviously ongoing, is the only character who sort of nominally got stuff ongoing. But like, yeah, John's story is done. Fucking Ren's story is done. Nora never had a story. Like,
Well, I guess we could be like, why is Nora this mysterious orphan? But I don't care.
yeah, exactly. I don't care. Like they did a whole season where they explored Ren's backstory, and I didn't care at the start, and I didn't fucking care at the end either. Like it was just a pointless diversion.
Yeah.
The main things you would need to do. We need to establish what it is Salem's trying to do. So we need to give them a clear goal to fight against. We need like concrete goals and some expectation of what it is they're hoping to achieve. And we just need to shed some of these fucking characters. Just send them away.
Yeah, like, make an excuse for them to split up right away. But, like, they can't just tell them to go home now. They would have to be on some other mission.
Put fucking John and Nora and Ren on an airship. They can fuck off.
You know what? Tell them to go get the Vacuo relic. And then, like, maybe you just meet up with them a couple seasons later and it's like, we failed. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously you would.
Obviously, because they suck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you get rid of those three. Kill Maria. Just kill her. We don't care. No one's going to mind.
She could actually just leave. She could be like, I'm going to go get my eyeglasses repaired, which is the only reason I was here. So, see ya. I don't care.
And then, like, if it was just Team RWBY and Oscar and Crow, that's not so bad.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
That's like you can work with that. Yeah. Because all the characters know each other. They've got reasons to be together.
Yeah. And they all have kind of dynamics.
For the most part, the chemistry between the main four isn't bad. I mean, despite the fact that like there's a couple of those characters in there that never talk to each other.
Yeah, Ruby never talks to Blake.
Yeah, Ruby and Blake have no relationship.
It's like an in joke among the fandom that they don't speak ever.
We need to shrink the cast, and we need to like give them concrete goals that they're trying to achieve, not vague ones that
Yeah.
they just think they need to do, and it's never established why. Like,
Yeah, because again, they haven't told us, like, we're just assuming that they want to put the relic in storage with the other one. All we know is that they want to take relic to Atlas.
yeah, same as all we've really known about Salem is she wanted to get the Jin relic.
Yeah, and get Ruby and get magic
But
people.
beyond that, we don't know. This is the thing, like, because like, yeah, you could do a show where we don't really know what Salem's up to, other than like she needs to be stopped. But they had a whole episode where they tried to tell us what Salem was going to do, and it just made us more confused and sympathetic.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's fucking wild. It really is.
Like, my hope is that, like, listening to this, you kind of understand what's so fascinating about it to us, because, like, it's really wild.
It is. It is. This is the thing, because like for the longest time on the Discord, you guys were talking about RWBY, and I'd seen like one season, and because the first seasons are very boring, and if you're not really into fights in the butt rock, then there's not much there for you. And I
Yeah.
didn't get why you guys could talk about it this much for that long, so endlessly.
Yeah.
It was genuinely confusing to me. But then you convinced me I had to watch through to season 6, and
Sorry.
by that point, by that point, now I understand. It really is fascinatingly bad. Like every wrong decision is made. Like every time they're faced with a choice in terms of the writing and the direction of the show, they always dodge the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's so many, like, surprising number of times where it's like, oh, maybe something kind of, like, not bad is gonna happen now. Oh, never mind. Oh, Neil's back. Oh, now she's seeing.
It's not just completely boring and unsavable and bad. There are kernels of good ideas in there. Like there's all these little moments where you go, well, you could just take it and shift this around and toy with it a bit, and you could see it being a good show.
And, like, the things that are bad tend to be batshit enough that it's like, this is very amusing.
Yeah, yeah, it's that sort of level of fascinatingly bad, and I've never seen that sustained for such a long period.
Yeah, because again, it's like they have their fan base that will watch no matter what, and they aren't beholden to a network. I guess now they kind of are. I don't know how much say AT&T has over them. Maybe it's like it's part of our contract with you that you don't get to say anything about what we do at Rooster Teeth.
I suppose as long as the show continues to make money, I mean, which I guess it does,
Must.
it is in a unique position where they can just continue to make it for as long as they want. And they've never had any reason to. There's never been anyone at the top of Rooster Teeth who's been competent enough to actually make this show. So there's never been any reason to improve it because it is inexplicably successful. Like, I mean, the most baffling thing about RWBY is that it is successful.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get how you could watch this show and think it's good.
It really seems like there's two kinds of, if you take like the people who don't kind of hate watch it or just like watch it to see what's happening now because they can't stop. It seems like, or no, that's one of the kinds of fans, is like the people who, they loved the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, they watched it at the right time in their lives. They were the right age, like whatever.
Yeah, and they're like, I know it's not good anymore, and the fights aren't any good, but I'm just gonna keep watching because I want to see what happens with it. I'm curious, like a a lot of webcomic readers like that and stuff.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's the people who actually think it's good, and they're very invested in every, like they loved episode 3, and we're learning things about the universe, and those people I don't understand.
Yeah, like the people who like Bumblebee is really important to them. I mean, in terms of representation, I suppose, but it's not like there isn't way better representation for lesbian relationships out there now. Like,
Yeah, it's just not in this show that they love. Most of us in the Discord want Bumblebee to sail, but not because we think that it's a compelling ship or that either of them is interesting, because they don't really have any chemistry. They're just kind of, I'm the spunky one, or I used to be, and I'm the reclusive one, which means that I don't have lines ever.
or I used to be. Like all of the characters, apart from Weiss, have had their characters sublimated or
Yeah, Weiss is the only one who still feels like a specific character trope.
yeah. Whereas the rest of them are so confused at this point, they don't make any sense anymore. Like it's like Ruby has become nothing really.
Yeah, Ruby used to be the Genki one, but she can't be now, so she's just the protagonist who does things. She's the character with the silver eyes. That's
Yeah.
her most relevant character trait right now.
Yeah, Yang went from being like the fun-loving.
Party girl, team mom.
roll with the punches sort of person. And, like, then she got cartoon PTSD, and
Yeah.
I don't know what she is now. Blake went from being quiet girl to an ex-Faunus terrorist to a girl who's being stalked to a princess, and who the fuck knows what's going on with her.
And now she's like just this Faunus Messiah character who has to like always be serious and has to be like, I know how to solve racism. We have to do better as the minorities. Blah blah blah. It's just like,
Yeah.
It's not a likable character.
Say what you will about Season 6, they didn't have that.
That's true. I appreciate them not having that.
They didn't have the stand-in for the minority race saying,
Wait,
we need to make more of an effort to solve racism.
we didn't get to really talk about Adam's brand.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Adam dramatically takes off his mask that he's worn the entire time, and he has the logo of the Schnee Dust Company branded into his face. Like, it's like all like shittily branded over one eye, which seems like that's such a like M. Night Shyamalan, what a twist. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Because slavery's been outlawed for a long time, so it's not a slave brand. Even if it was, why the fuck would you put it there? So it's like, did he just accidentally get burned at some point?
It's just, they were teasing for so long that we were finally going to see his face.
Yeah, so it's like, it has to be something dramatic.
We all had ideas about what sort of silly thing they could do. I don't think any of us expected this. It's just...
No, and then, like, because again, like, the heiress to the Schnee Dust Company is in the team that he's been stalking this whole time, and he doesn't care. He has their brand on his fucking face.
Again, you managed to do something that makes your show make even less sense.
Yeah, God, if it was anything else.
Again, it's the same thing of, like, it's a cool idea. We think that's a cool idea, but you have not thought it through at all. Like,
Yeah, wouldn't that be dramatic?
you really haven't thought about what this means for this character in this show. That he doesn't care about Weiss, or possibly even know she's there. Slavery wasn't legal anymore, so why would you brand with your company's logo, and why would you put it on the guy's face, damaging one of his eyes?
Yeah, like, even if it was like, we're gonna teach you a lesson, like,
Yeah.
that's not very good PR. It's like if his face just said, like, drink Coke on it. It's
I mean, essentially, I guess the idea is it's a hate crime. Like, he was the victim of a hate crime.
yeah, but again, your company logo!
Yeah, a hate crime on behalf of a corporation.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird.
It's not even that. Like, even that part of it, I'm like, okay, I could sort of see that part of it happening. It's just the fact that he doesn't give a shit about Weiss that makes no sense.
Yeah, none of it lines up.
No. The worst thing is, like, because we talked about this before, if it wasn't Blake and Yang and it was Blake and Weiss,
Yes! Checkmate!
the two characters that actually did have, like, a compelling sort of chemistry, because they started off as enemies.
They have that, like, fighting two friends kind of deal going on, which is very romantic. And they actually have, like, from two worlds, Romeo and Juliet kind of thing.
They actually have some things in common in terms of trying to get away from their pasts and their families and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then Adam, as a character, complicates their relationship.
Yeah, and he has reasons to hate them both.
Yeah, and like it that is just such a more compelling ship. And again, because Blake and Yang, whatever, like.
And they, like, barely interacted before the scene where Yang goes after Adam. Like, it makes me think of Madoka Rebellion in that it's like, she is the Yang ship person because the fans liked shipping them.
Yeah.
Not because they had, like, any in-universe time together to really have a relationship.
Whereas if it actually wanted to ship one of the characters, then yeah, there was a much better option sitting right there that actually would have been more compelling.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a bad show. It's a bad show.
It's a bad show. It can't be saved. You should watch it, though.
It is like, yeah, again,
If you haven't seen it.
I'm not huge on hate watching in general, even though I've watched a lot of bad stuff for that other podcast to do. But RWBY is genuinely fascinating in the myriad ways it manages to be bad. And how consistently bad.
Yeah, and like we've mostly focused on one season. There's so many things that happen in the other seasons that like we didn't really get into.
Oh, we could do entire podcasts about the other ones. I mean, you could probably compress 4 and 5 into one episode podcast, but like,
Yeah.
it really is like the show is bad in so many ways. It's very hard to cover. There's stuff we've missed. There's stuff we haven't talked about from season 6. It really is fascinating. But what I would recommend, watch it with people.
Yes.
It's one of those. It's kind of like The Room. You need to watch it as a collective with other
Yeah.
people, so you can enjoy how bad it is together. Watching something like The Room on your own is just a sad exercise. Whereas, yeah, you want to do it with other people.
Yeah,
It really
get,
is.
get some drinks, watch a bad anime. RWBY is not boring.
No, RWBY's not boring. No. Well, okay, sometimes it's boring.
Okay, yeah, season 4 did happen.
Occasionally it's boring and you want to skip through, but it's for the most part of it, it's not boring. If you ever stop to think about RWBY, it's not boring. It's absolutely fascinating in a way that, like, Oscar is like just a dull generic idea. No, RWBY is very much that. RWBY is a pastiche of a whole bunch of ripped off, stupid ideas, but it manages to be so fascinatingly awful, but almost good at the same time. Like, it's danced that line for 6 seasons, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, like, and it's always like different kinds of problems that it has at any given time. It's not always the same problem.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, they on the one hand manage to repeat the same mistakes, and on the other hand invent new ones. Like, oh man, fascinating, just absolutely fascinating.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed us talking for 3 hours about why a show is bad, but why we won't stop watching it ever, and we have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, but it's a terrible show. It's one of the worst shows I've ever seen.
It's my favorite show.
I'm obviously going to keep watching it.
All right.
Thanks, Cube.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.